Cash and the ticket is yours.
Feel my heart, it's beat tight. All my body's breathing, it's just you and me. Feel my heart, it's beat tight. All my body
4v3.
Everfrog Esports trying to find what angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a whoa. They're gonna deflect. The white gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
A beast mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so gonna clear it out. Sage gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Oh, and he's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Saga4 is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Pulse Bomb's gonna stick on the Leaky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Blue manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to CGL. We are here for some grand finals action here in our Masters division of NA. It has all come down to this, a long season and a longer playoff run, but finally we've got 2 teams who will face off in our first to 4, our best of 7 series here to decide who is going to go home the victor and who gets a mere 2nd place finish here. It is Rags along with Megalast to bring you all of this action, but of course, before we dive into the actual series, we've got a bit of an award show ahead of us here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we always have those end of season awards in this tier, the NA Masters tier, no exception. Tons of highlights here, and people get to walk away with some lovely trophies. I feel like we should make a certificate or something. I feel like that'd be cool. Make people print it off or something. But yeah, it's going to be super, super fun. Hand out some trophies, highlight some stars in the tier here. Just, you know, again, give that CGL community what it loves.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right into it, folks. Some of these will have interviews accompanying them, and some of them won't. So we'll have someone along for the ride whenever that becomes necessary. Also, most of these categories will have runners-up. Occasionally, a couple of them have a few. So we'll give them a shout-out as well. So first up, for your top voted manager here in the Masters Division for this season, your runner-up from the team of Atlas Kesoku is XX Edgymom XX. Always love seeing that name there. But of course, the winner, the victor for the rewarded best manager here in Masters is going to be from Vesuvius, Confessor. There we go. That is one who's not going to be an interview for us, so congratulations again to Confessor. But along we must move here, looking at our top coach in the Masters Division. This one, same deal for your runner-up from the Fallen is Daddy-O Casey 97, and your top contestant, your winner here of coach for the Masters Division, is from the team Low Ground Main. It is Pred. I don't believe we have along for the ride with us. Yeah. So we are going to move right along once again. Congratulations to Pred for the victory there. And next up, we have for our MVP award being given out here. It is going to be, so for this one, we do have a single runner-up. It's going to be from Visored, which is the team you will see tonight, is Alex the Carry. But your MVP, once again here, it is from Low Ground Main. It is Pred, so congratulations to Pred once more. All right, we're just coasting right along here. Sans interviews. We've got another few more ahead of us. Actually looking at the roles of the players in lobby here. So looking at your rookie, your top rookie here for the division, we have for our runners up is going to be from Atlas Kesoku is Spectre. And then your victor from Visored is Ethan. And do we have, I can't remember if we have Ethan. We have all of these written down here. All right, so checking real quick. Nope, we don't have it for rookie as well. Fantastic. There will be interviews, folks. I do promise. looking next down the line for our tanks. So heading into the thick of it here for your tank role. We've got 2 runners up here for each of the given roles. On low ground main, runner up is High Quality, of course. For Vesuvius, another runner-up is Shadowy, but your victor in the tank role is going to be, this is again another case of no interview, but it is XXXMom XX from Atlas Kesoku. All right, Megalas, I feel like I've had so much fun doing it. Would you love to have a turn?
Of course. You know, we gotta have fun and we gotta do it by shouting out over to our supports. If I'm actually going in order, I'm just double checking that that is correct. But yeah, listen, you know, the supports, they do the thing, they heal the back line here, and you had some phenomenal runners up in Slicey from Atlas Kesuko and Batman from Iliad Poseidon, but there can only be one winner, and the best support for NA Masters is going to go to Scraggy on the side of Visored here. And if I'm not mistaken, we do actually have Scraggy. We can actually hear from this one.
All right, Scraggy, welcome. Yes, you have won for our support role here, best of the Masters Division. How are we feeling with this victory under your belt?
Very happy, very proud.
Yeah,
anyone
absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
Anyone you want to drop a thanks or a shout out to?
Shout out my team. Shout out Alex the carry. He coached me a lot because I didn't know how to play Lucio at all when I first started, so he really taught me how to play the game.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us and moving right along here. So we've heard about our tank and support. Looking at the damage roll here again, couple excellent runners up, of course. Low ground mains Pred, who we've heard just so very much about already here, and Visored's Ethan, who you may just see in this series coming up in a few short minutes here. But the winner for Masters Division on the damage roll, it has got to be from Atlas Kesoku. It is Spectre, or Ali. Welcome, Ali.
Hello.
And congratulations on winning the, DPS role victory here. How you feeling with this?
I'm feeling alright.
All right. Anyone you want to shout out or drop a thanks to?
Yeah. Pretty much my entire team. I love those guys so much. They helped me a lot throughout the season. Just like being fun to be around, you know.
Fantastic. All right, well, Ali, we're going to have you hang around for just a second here for reasons that are mysterious and unknowable, but we have one more award to hand out here tonight. It is the Fish Award for Sportsmanship, voted on by the staff here. So we do have a situation where, Megalas, we've had a tie of teams here in the Masters Division NA. So you might have possibly been able to guess, folks, what one of these teams is, but one is Low Ground Main, and the other is Atlas Kesoku. So, yes, for that, we do have here, we've got High Quality and Ali. So, first of all, High Quality, welcome to it. Congratulations on the Sportsmanship Award. How you feeling?
Pretty good. Thank you. Yeah. Just...
Yeah, anyone you want to drop a thanks to or, like, shout out the team?
Yeah, I mean, overall, shout out my team. Obviously can't play without them. They've all been pretty chill guys. I mean, we are a very casual team, so like nobody's taking things too seriously, but we're still just playing to try to win, obviously. So shout out to all of them to kind of all getting along and all playing good together there. And then shout out to all the other people I've interacted with in the league so far. I know, especially like a couple people on Visored, I know I've had good conversations with, and they seem like good guys, so just makes the league more enjoyable whenever there's just more people like that, yeah.
Yeah, can't agree more. And Ali, of course, how do you feel with your team here being given the Sportsmanship Award?
Honestly, it's deserved. My team is just incredible in every single way possible.
Yeah, it certainly showed for both of your squads, so congratulations to both of you once again, and thanks for joining us. And of course, folks, we have High Quality also congrats on being run up for tank, by the way. So that was solid stuff there on your end. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for our awards here. Megalas, there's been so many fantastic players here, of course, throughout the divisions, but it's been so fun to get to watch them as we truck through, especially here in the playoffs for the Masters division. There's just been, it's been a fantastic ride getting to this point here, honestly. Starting off a lot of these games here at the very beginning of this playoffs bracket for the Masters division was honestly, I was surprised to kind of see some of these early matches go the way they did. We had Visored, who was head and shoulders above the rest of the division here, got sent down to that loser's bracket, and then had to battle all the way through it just to get back here once again.
Yeah, and, getting to look at that bracket, like you said, the team that sent them down there in a massive upset, the Fallen, right? This is a team that comes out of the regular season, I think 5th overall seed. This is somebody who, you didn't see it coming here and certainly had to battle back 15 maps through the winner's bracket, but they clinch it out time and time again here. And like you said, Visored, on the flip side of things, had to battle back, fight all the way through lower bracket, taking down rivals every step of the way, threats, and now they finally get their rematch. What should have been their spot to begin with, they're now having to contend with the Fallen here. So we have a very interesting setup for this matchup.
Yeah, this has honestly been a pretty competitive division all the way through the season here. Of course, Visored is coming at this with the highest seed. I believe they were 8-1 regular season, but still, a lot of these teams were running more like, 6 wins, 5 wins, still having a pretty competitive upper end of the pack here. So it's been a real joy to get to see them slog it out here through the playoffs. But it's crucial to note there, as we saw in the bracket, a lot of 5-map games here all the way through the upper and lower bracket. So coming into this, it's not as if either of these teams are in exactly a dominant position at this point.
No, and that's going to be something that we have to sort of take into account, right? With these longer series, obviously the stakes are at their highest right now. And both these teams have shown that they can operate in those high-pressure situations, right? Map 5 facing elimination for Visored, they know how to get the job done. The Fallen, again, having to literally upset their entire way through the upper bracket on map 5s. It's all about maintaining that composure when the stakes could not be higher. There is no do-over. There is no second chance at this point. It is simply you are fighting for glory or you lose. There's no in between at this point here. So both these teams definitely going to be giving it their all, and I feel like they're both composed and ready to give us a very long and dedicated series.
Yeah, we've certainly seen them both, have a lot of change, a lot of victories since their last face-off in what feels like years ago in the first round of the playoffs here. But yeah, the Fallen, again, as we mentioned, just haven't had a very clean sweep to the upper bracket here, taking down Vesuvius and Atlas Kesoku. But it's been really impressive to see Visored battle back, only taking 1-3-0 series there against Ilya Poseidon. So yeah, as you're saying, this is very much a team that has cut their teeth coming through the lower bracket, and they know exactly what it is to play in these do-or-die scenarios here. Second place is a fine thing enough, but it's certainly nothing compared to winning it all here. And there's going to be quite a few maps ahead of them here. You need 4 to win. It's a bit longer than our standard series here. And of course, that's a whole 7 to work with, barring some extraordinary scenarios here. But we're expecting to see a nice show up between these two, especially considering, kind of where the meta is sitting right now. We just had, of course, a new season launch. The new hero folks will not be involved in the proceedings, in case you hadn't caught our previous games this week, just to keep things nice and simple. But yes, so the other changes and the other adjustments here in terms of the, meta game shakeup will be present. So I'm very curious to see exactly how the slight adjustments. I know there was a slight Sigma overtune and then rewind just today, in fact. So I don't know whether that means we're going to see much of the particular Flying Dutchman there, but again, these teams will see exactly what they want to run, especially if we're looking at our first map out the gate here. But it looks as though first we're looking at our rosters. Oh yeah, whichever we go to, that's great. No, map is good. It is. Yeah, of course, what a surprise. We are going to Lijiang Tower. Megalas, I mean, it feels like home at this point.
Yeah, Lijiang, I mean, we've been talking about it behind the scenes. It's been the popular pick. Teams love to start here, and absolutely for the right reasons, right? It's a map that's very standard. You're going to be able to play what you want here most of the time, even considering the bans and stuff that get thrown your way. And it's just a map that's very good to get a gauge of your opponent. Of course, these two teams should be well acquainted with each other at this point. If they haven't done their research, then I don't understand how you're in grand finals without doing your research. But like you said, there is obviously tons of things to consider. A brand new patch coming in at the very last minute to shake up what could potentially be, what these teams have been practicing, the bread and butter and things like that here can certainly play a role here. But as we get a look at our teams, the squads that are going to be representing these two, the Fallen coming from upper bracket, not a flawless run in the slightest, but they get the job done. They didn't fall down here. You have Dex and Benno on that DPS line, Perf on tank, and then Wander and Neon Mudkip. Honestly, the one I want to watch out for is Neon Mudkip. That Lucio, I remember the last time getting cast these guys was absolutely diabolical, popping up in the kill feed as well as providing that healing when needed.
Well, on the other side of things, Visored, the team who's had to battle it all the way back through the lower bracket, they certainly have a titanic chip on their shoulder. For DPS line is Ethan and Easy Clap Easy there. And of course, Alex the carry on your tank line. Do not count out that Wrecking Ball when it comes down to it. For your support line, of course, you do have Shadowkilla and Scraggy as well. So yeah, this is two very well-matched teams. I'm honestly very excited to see, how they want to run into each other here, whether it is the D.Va v Wrecking Ball eventually. Because again, some of these teams love to, especially, Visored, love to force the Wrecking Ball in situations where you might not usually see that, talking about dive or even talking about rush here. Sometimes Lijiang Tower can easily be a Wrecking Ball's playground if you have a tank who is that way inclined. But yeah, with, pointing out the Lucio props here on the side of the Fallen, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point here we see a Lucio ban, even as instrumental as that hero can be.
Yeah, it certainly can be a factor in these series here, what you ban, what you take away, depending on the map types. We have been seeing more and more teams opt into the Lucio ban on Lijiang, just because while you would prefer the speed, it is one of the few maps in the game you can still get around pretty fast and operate without it, right? You're not having to travel these long distances like on some of the other maps and modes you're going to go throughout the series here. So just getting the Lucio ban out of the way, sometimes a bit preferred for these squads here. But obviously there's tons of different ways you can look at bans, right? Like I said, at this point, these teams should have done their research. They've played against each other a few times. They've gone the distance in their own matches as well. So plenty of VODs to review here to know, hey, maybe this person likes to play this hero a lot. Maybe this person wants to run specifically Reinhardt strategies all night. I don't think it'll happen, but just on the off chance, you want to be prepared for it and stuff like that. So targeted bans can certainly strike the hardest here. But as we're getting the countdown here, I'm very interested to see who the Fallen ends up going with, because again, they come from the upper bracket, so they get that first stab in the dark here at the ban, so they get to have that sort of massive impact first.
Yeah, we've been seeing some teams ban out, the Genji or the Tracer as well if they don't want to go for it. But no, it's going to be the Echo here. All right, so very much counting on seeing that coming directly at you, as we saw, of course, on the side of Visored. That is a favorite hero of our DPS. But for Visored, I mean, if they really want to force, if you want to force the Fallen into your playground here, if you want to force the Wrecking Ball, maybe you want to ban out the Winston or the D.Va or even the Hazard, some of these tanks that might play that very fast dive style more effectively. Nope, it's going to be the BAP. Okay, so they really want to lock down the support line. I mean, BAP doesn't see a ton of play except maybe on Control Center on occasion here, but yeah, you certainly won't see any of it here on this map of Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, and taking away that, sturdy source of healing, as well as, BAP was one of those characters that got a minor buff in the last patch, right? I think it was a 3-second reduction on Immortality Field's cooldown, so certainly can be a factor when you're playing those BAP Lucio comps, potentially with the Brawl setup, making yourself a little more sturdy, as well as having that Immortality Field just a few more times in a match. Once you start adding up those 3 seconds over time here, it can certainly make the difference. The Echo ban on the other side of things for Fallen, I mean, this is, again, sort of studying and knowing your opponent here. They know Easy Clap is on the other side. They know the prolific Echo player is going to be a thorn in their backside all series long. They want to try to get off on the right foot with just getting it out of the way, at least for one map.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to, to deal with in terms of planning out your bans for the duration of the series here, because of course Echo does see a ton of play on your control maps, if you are that ways inclined here, as we do know that Visored is. but she still has plenty of flexibility on some further maps in the series as well. So this is your only chance to ban out that hero, so you're determined to get the series off on the right foot, and you're hoping that having momentum in your favor is going to swing things for you, because again, we've seen sometimes, in these grand finals where teams, start off very strong with their bans, but then they kind of spend really early all the most important tools of their opposition, in the first map or 2 or even 3 of the series, and by the time things swing back around their opponent's favor, they're kind of running out of juice there, or you're running into compositions that have a few different win conditions here. Of course, this is Lijiang Tower, so you could just expect the standard of Zarya and Reaper, as strong as both of those heroes still are right now. A little bit less. Reaper got a slight lifesteal nerf, but he's still quite dangerous at close range. And of course, Zarya, comboing nicely with that Echo, with that Reaper, even with that Venture, who also has been slightly brought back into check a little bit here. So yeah, I think Echo probably is an excellent ban at the gate here, just because she's kind of untouched essentially by the most recent adjustments of the patch here. She's that one dive DPS who's still looking very lethal in the right hands. So I do think this is a good ban, to be very clear here. So I'm looking to see more of that Sojourn alongside a Genji, alongside a Tracer, maybe even a Mei, especially looking at Control Center. Or, might just be sticking with Reaper here. Patch might not have mattered whatsoever.
Yeah. And I also love how you talked about the longevity of the series and how that can sort of deal with things in terms of the bans, right? Because you already see it when series go 5 maps. You almost sort of start running out of things to ban, right? If we end up in a situation where you're going 7 maps, at that point you might just end up throwing darts at a wall in terms of your bans, so you're going to end up with some pretty wacky compositions because you're just looking for any advantage at that point once you're later on in the series here. And, like me and Rags both said, we expect this series to kind of go the distance. These two teams have been neck and neck throughout this playoff run here. So for one team to come in and stomp the other right now, it would show a massive level up in just such a short time. It would honestly be kind of insane to watch.
Yeah, this is honestly revenge here for Visored. They could easily be feeling like they've had, their crowning season stolen away from them getting to this point here. They were 8-1 in the regular season, looking so dominant, and of course to lose that first round, and now facing once again the grand finals, the team that sent you here. Is just very exciting to see this. And of course, you have to worry about this if you're the Fallen. Of course, you're coming in off victories yourself, but you have to know how badly Visored want this, how much this team has really proven themselves throughout this season here. The Fallen, not too bad at all. They certainly have a decent tagline, but I believe only 5 wins in the regular season, which is not quite the dominant status we've been seeing from the Visored here. So I'm very curious to see exactly if we're seeing aggression out here from Visored, if we see them lock in, or if, that vengeance, that hunger, to that chip on your shoulder once again, if that sort of caused them to make some early mistakes here. You really have to play things carefully. You've got that extra map as a buffer, but still, if you go down 2-0 here, you're facing so much pressure on you coming into that 3rd and then that 4th and potentially final map in the series. So you really cannot afford to go down here 2-0, and especially not 3-0, just for the sake of your mental state alone.
Yeah, and again, it comes back down to having that mental fortitude to be able to get through long series like this and deal with things as the pressure sort of gets thrown at you and comes alive throughout a series here. I'm especially looking forward to, again, like you said, should be a series that goes for a while here. And, obviously you want to highlight, like you said, Visored definitely have that, they feel as though this was supposed to be theirs. 8-1 when there's only 8 regular season games only means one thing. It means they won the mid-season. They had that chip on their shoulder, and maybe cost them a slight falter in the regular season, but they still come in at that number 1 seed spot. Meanwhile, the Fallen having to sort of be scrappy. This is a team that, you even look towards the awards, right? Sort of went under the radar in a lot of respects, but now they're sitting here in the grand finals after coming through winners bracket and beating everybody that they were, having to upset, right? So I feel as though it's so impressive to look at this team, because every single time that they've upset, they're now no longer the full-on underdogs. This is a team that you realistically can see fighting this matchup face-to-face with Visored and coming out the victor.
Yeah, of course, having the momentum on your side is absolutely massive here. This is one of those situations in the playoffs where you get to see 2 teams off back-to-back wins in their previous matches here. That does not usually tend to happen except at the very start. So Playoffs are a different game entirely here. However you do in the regular season, as long as you perform above and beyond here in the postseason, that's honestly all it takes. The Fallen have more than proven their worth of standing here alongside the top of the division. So Visored, now the ball is in their court for them to show that they have learned from their slip-ups, have made those 5-map series work their magic here at the very end. And yeah, as we're rolling out here from Visored, I am not at all surprised to see this composition here from the Fallen. They're still riding high on this Sigma comp, so teleporting out here with the Symmetra alongside Dex on the Bastion. I'm so glad we get to see this in a grand finals. This is the perfect time and place, and Perf has decided that is, oh yeah, other side there. That's a bit of a swap for there from the kill line, but a quick pause here real quick, folks. Don't want you to get, feel like we're getting too quickly into the action. Just want to make sure that we've really tested these waters.
Yeah, most likely a player disconnect there, but obviously highlighting the very unique compositions that the Fallen is coming out with. We talked about it a little bit, right? On that patch day, season 20 coming in, Sigma gets a massive buff, goes from sort of irrelevant into the meta to almost an overwhelming force where he can one-shot pretty much anybody that's not a tank. And then Blizzard very quickly is able to adjust, slightly tune it down, not to the state he was at before, but still buffed from that original state, where you're doing that extra damage. And it's crazy because it's not like it was some sort of insane kit overhaul or something like that. It was the tweaking of a damage number by 10 that sort of sent Sigma into that cataclysm of being this powerful meta tank here, and the Fallen clearly practicing with that composition, trying to take advantage of it. And now with Sigma slightly reduced, still having to find the value. But again, one of the best things about Sigma is that accretion, like you saw hitting onto Scraggy, taking that Lucio out of the fight there. And again, whoever you land these accretions on, you're going to be able to isolate and cause such massive damage here. So now with that Lucio missing, you're going to see the Fallen hopefully push the objective.
Yeah, Visored still have control of the point for now, but Perf is able to push forward here on the back of the Sim teleporter. You do have Benno here on the objective. Dex cleans up Alex the carry. Yeah, forced into the welcoming arms of a Bastion. Not at all a position you want to find yourself in if you are Visored. So the Fallen will actually take first cap here. Visored were not able to gain control before we started. So that is going to be on the back of an odd comp. As you said, Mega, this is still a solid opening here for the Fallen.
Yeah, and it's also a comp that's almost handcrafted to sort of deter Zarya, right? Because it's a Zarya, you're extremely tempted to use those bubbles on the Bastion form to sort of build up your high energy. But once you're high energy and you're in range of the Sim, that's a beam you have to contest with. And generally, you can't just fire back at the Sim purely because the Sigma is there to stop it with a shield as well. So really, this is a handcrafted comp that could potentially finally defy the Zarya meta we've been seeing.
Yeah, Scraggy is having to play a bit more carefully here, still getting found out, but it is that grenade out there from Dex, takes down easy clap. Shadow Killer falling down quickly as well. Once that Sim game gets charged up, I mean, you can hear the Hornets coming for you, and Visored are heading for the hills, still trying to have a presence here around the side. Alex the Carrot can't really get away very easily, still is just trying to find some pressure, some ult charge, some regular old Zarya charge off the back of this, is able to build up towards a decent amount, but you're facing so much damage here from all angles at once. Easy clap though, getting booped off as well. 9 Mudkip, I mean, you've called it. This is a Lucio to watch very much here. That is a big ult spend for the Fallen. That is 3 ults spent here, but the Cathedral Rush mirrored on the side from Shadow Killa does make that spend at least somewhat worth it, but the Fallen, I mean, they have a much depleted ult bank after this.
The much depleted ult bank, but I just want to point it out, that was 2 for the Lucio in the fight there, with the 2 different boop kills. I know the kill feed gets a little bit wonky, unfortunately, in this new patch, but bear with us on that. Again, the Fallen, while lacking ults, are going to be in control here, so if they can stop the tide that Visored's coming in with, they can just take this point here and now.
Visored desperate just to touch the objective here. You're seeing Nyan Mudkip go for those boops real quick, but Easy Clap is not at all bothered. That Reaper still maintaining solid presence. The Flux reaches up, but the sound barrier is just in time to keep those levitating members alive, and Visored on the back of that sound barrier. A single spend of 1 well-timed ultimate earns you the point back into your control, but 99%, the Fallen need only 1 more fight to take this round.
Yeah, and I'd feel so much better about it for the Fallen if they didn't choose to invest the Bastion and Sigma ults into a fight that was clearly already lost. Like, sure, you get the sound barrier out, but realistically, you're now going to be pushing into another fight where Visored is already favored. As another pause is being called here. Oh, goodness, we're going to be in for it, Rags. I can feel it.
Look, Megalas, we were talking about a long series. We just didn't know exactly how that was going to show itself here. So don't worry, folks. We'll hopefully get all of these things sorted out early on, so fingers crossed it will not be as much of an issue later on down the line. But yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating getting to see sort of the adaptations on the fly, not, you know, compositionally speaking, but at least in terms of their game plan coming into this for the side of Visored here. They opted not to swap compositions. They feel like they can still take the Sigma comp on fundamentals. They just need to change up their game plan a little bit. And of course, tracking that ult economy and, you know, having 3 heavy ults spent in that previous fight does mean you can come up into this next fight, and spending only that sound barrier is actually kind of clutch. If you spend anything more than that, that immediately, you know, provides value to the Fallen, who again just have to win one more fight here. They can have a couple fights building up ultimates, and if you are left with a dry ult bank while they have so much to work with, I mean, that's just an easy round loss right there. But we're back into the action, folks. Do not worry whatsoever. Ethan on that Sojourn overclock rolling, cleans up 3, an incredible triple kill there for the Sojourn on the side of Visored. Again, this is the comp that has been kind of, you know, the very standard here on Lijiang Tower especially, and Visored proving why it's still as good as ever.
Exactly. Visored, at the very least, had to use their ult combo there, so the Fallen now can sort of push in. Thanks to the Symmetric Teleporter and Easy Clap, unfortunately caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Was expecting them to come one way, and now has to TP in with this Blossom from another.
Yeah, gets spot out, but goes for the Blossom anyway. That is on top of the Kitsune Rush laid through, so much more damage coming onto the opposition here. Visored are able to win the day, and the Fallen, again, didn't really have much to spend there, so that is still a solid commit from Visored, but again, they have to win these fights, so I honestly I totally get them needing to spend in these engagements.
Yeah, but because the Blossom goes wide and you then have to use the Kitsune Rush, you're now going to be in a situation where you don't have ultimates to respond to a Kitsune Rush as well as a Sim Wall here. So, I mean, Fallen right now has perfect opportunity to get into this objective.
Wall out from Benno. You still have this rush left to go from Wander here. Back onto the point as they're just trying to flip it over. As Visored are forced off the point, you have these kills coming through already. It is the turret composition with Dex and Benno comboing to clean up these kills. With the teleports, you can never know where this Bastion's gonna be. Yeah, that's a really solid round 1 there from the Fallen. Like we were talking about, it's just so tough once you get into that 99 to 0%. You do get that control for Visored, but still, such an uphill climb.
Yeah, absolutely brutal to try to come back from here in those situations. But also for the Fallen, I mean, it just sort of helps them to deal with things in this series because they're just sort of being able to be unpredictable, right? It's not like it's a Symmetric Teleporter that's going to the same spot every single time. They're moving around the map. They're not even all going through the teleporter at the same time, right? You saw, especially in that last fight, Perf was, you know, very late to coming through the teleporter, and it threw a lot of things off where Visored couldn't necessarily respond in time. But now, no teleporter in play, just a teleporting Reapy boy.
Yeah, Benno here on the Reaper. I like this adaptation here for Control Center especially. This is really a solid compositional choice here for the Fallen. Visored, however, are still on the back foot. They're having to force themselves around the long rotation. They went to go for that raised server room, but not really able to make it as Purpose holding the door, and you do have that threat that Benno is providing on that Reaper. Now in your back line, trying to find out Ethan. Easy Clap gets stunned out. Still so low in health, 45, and a Dream does get healed up, but for how much longer? Nope, that is going to be Perf cleaning up that Reaper. Really solid adjustments, but Visored are still in this engagement here. You do have to worry about Shadow Killer. Dex is able to answer for the loss of his tank, so we are trading blow for blow here. Do not mind the colors of the kill feed, folks. The names are all you need to know. The Fallen have gained first control, and Visored, yeah, they're going over to that Bastion.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, I understand why it's frustrating and you want to go over to the Bastion, but it's not an answer into the Sigma, right? Sigma has both the barrier and the kinetic grasp that can be used in the face of the Bastion here, so you can sort of mitigate so much better than, say, the Zarya can here. And you're noticing the pressure they're putting onto Alex, where this Zarya, who's been a star all season long, is simply being washed out.
Yeah, again, this is, you kind of feel like you're supposed to be winning this one here. You are Visored, top of the division. This is the comp that works on Lijiang Tower, but the Fallen have found a different gear to play from. Benno, though, getting taken down early on here is an excellent opening for the rest of the team to surge forward. Easy clap falling. That is going to be a bit of a damper on their, difficulties, as you do have this Kitsune Rush as well out from Wander. The sound barrier from Neon Mudkip just trying to keep the team alive. We are surging well past 50% here, and we do finally have the return of the rest of the Fallen. They're pushing into the spawn doors of Visored. Ethan has his overclock, but not much dignity.
I was going to say, Benno got a little too deep there. Thankfully, the Wraith form will get him out here. But yeah, I mean, the Fallen so far have been sort of answering and sort of keeping Visored contained, right? Not allowing the rotations to come through, sort of keeping this contained, and now with the Gravitic Flux to boot, really just doing it all.
Yeah, Alex the Carry getting taken down first. It's absolutely devastating here. Visored go for the bead, but Scraggy is only able to lay on the 4 surviving members of the squad. That is essentially your primary engagement / defensive ult here, and we are now ticking up towards 90% in control for the Fallen. The Death Blossom out from Benno. I mean, styling on them just inside of the spawn doors, why don't you? Dex cleaning up Alex once again. This Zarya has been a non-factor on Control Center. I cannot remember the last time I have seen that be the case. And folks, as close as certain points of Gardens were, Control Center was not at all. The Fallen take Lijiang Tower in commanding fashion and start off the series with a bang.
A massive bang, right? Because again, we talk about sort of how they're, how coming into the series, we're expecting a very back and forth affair here, but it's just such a different style of play when you're incorporating, this poke composition, right? Something that's not been present in the meta for quite a while. We've been seeing pretty much a lot of Zarya, a lot of Diva, and, some Winston and things like that when it's applicable, but to slow the game down, play a bit of a poke style where you're playing around Bastion, Symmetra cooldowns, and things of that nature. It's so unbelievably different that it can catch teams off guard because they just aren't in that same world right now. They're not in that same headspace. The last time that was popular as a meta was honestly probably like early Overwatch 2, right after the Jotes meta. So it's just such an interesting situation for Visored to find themselves in, as well as the Fallen. They didn't rest on their laurels. They continued to adapt their style, right? They swapped off that Sim over to the Reaper to even apply more pressure onto the Zarya composition. I mean, that's a team that shows that they're flexible and adaptable, willing to do any and everything.
Yeah, they kind of knew that if they stuck with that Symmetra, they would certainly have some difficulties if they didn't gain that first control. And of course, the pressure you can put out with that Reaper. Alex having to worry so much about not only the Bastion, but also the Reaper, and of course your Sigma, newly buffed with a little bit more damaging Hyperspheres. That's a ton to ask your Zarya to manage 2 bubble cooldowns for. That's just not really feasible at the end of the day here. So I like that they, swapped over to a Bastion of their own. I just felt like it was too little too late at that point. They really didn't have the comp synergy to work with it. It should be noted, folks, there was a very slight, just because I'm always deep in the patch notes, a very slight buff to Bastion's damage in the season patch that came out for his Sentry form. Not, of course, for the tank. Everyone knows that one does an insane amount of damage here, but just to keep a little bit of parity between the two, so it's not quite, only, the damage hose and just, oh, Bastion, don't worry about him so much. So it's been good to see that getting utilized here on Lijiang Tower. We'll see if that continues onto the series or if that's just a control map and Lijiang's specialty here. But honestly, with the way that Fallen were playing and, the lengths they're trying to go compositionally here, I kind of wouldn't be surprised with any variation on this comp they want to run the further we get into the series here. Flashpoint might be the one sticking point they might have, but I don't know. I've yet to see the limitations of this comp, so until then, I'm a believer.
I think the limitations are going to come from the ban screen, because while it is a very unique composition, that is also a issue in certain situations where you are going to be limiting your composition. And for example, there's 3 different unique characters, the Symmetra, the Bastion, and the Sigma, that can all be targeted in a ban phase here. So that's already 3 maps that you could be potentially missing. Those key characters if you want to pilot this composition through an entire series here. But as we're getting a look at our bans from map number 2, it's a Lifeweaver ban? Visored? What are we doing, homies? What's going on?
I mean, the optimistic is that is a support role protection ban. That has to be what we're looking at. That has to be, right? I mean, I'm feeling insane if that's not the case here. But yes, I'm going to choose to believe that until we are proven and told otherwise. But now it is the Fallen's chance to ban this out. Yeah, it's going to be on the D.Va. That feels like a solid selection coming out the gate here. So that is your Lifeweaver and your D.Va ban here in our second map of the series.
I'm interested to see where we're going for this second map. Just because, like, the D.Va ban can be contextualized. Like, again, it's another very prevalent character in the meta. Somehow escapes the most recent patch notes without a singular nerf or anything like that being thrown at our favorite gamer. But again, the Lifeweaver ban, it feels so out of left field. I don't know if, like, maybe they have some screen time on Fallen where they sort of know what they're going to play here. But Watchpoint Gibraltar, very dive heavy map. I think the Fallen might actually have to try to play some Winston here, so it would very well be the D.Va ban just to force it over to the Winston or potentially some other dive options. Because, you know, I love Sigma as much as the next person, but you can't really teleport onto high grounds across the entirety of Watchpoint Gibraltar. You're just too slow and too immobile at that point.
Yeah, honestly, really, I'm having to assume it's got to be a protection ban. They want to be able to run whatever the support line, you know, suits them best here. Of course, looking at Gibraltar, that is likely going to be something like the Ana Brig. You know, Ana's just kind of so effective here on these incredibly long sight lines on all 3 points here for Gibraltar. Of course, having a nano in your back pocket is never something that your support or your DPS and tank line will be upset with here. So it's a long map to finish. So there's plenty of room to defend here. If you want to slow things down, of course, this is perhaps one of the best maps to do it here. Escort really does play a very different tempo than Control does. So this is certainly a chance to reconsider and recontextualize yourself. And looking at this compositionally speaking here, yeah, so we're going to be sticking with the Sigma, which makes perfect sense. Gibraltar, it is a dive map, but, you know, if you can really hold on defense pretty easily here as Sigma. So this bunker comp from the Fallen, I'm surprised, but it's a welcome one to be sure.
Yeah, the Fallen is giving shades of, like, that meme that people talk about of Double Shield, or it's San Francisco Shock posted on top of Gibraltar second. With the shields, the Bastion turret, and everything. That's sort of what their comp is giving energy-wise right now. Meanwhile, Visored, I mean, 8 seconds in the spawn room, I don't see a lot of swaps coming through. The Malga might be real. Okay, I was going to say, I was very scared, but finally we switch over to the real dive composition. Everybody switches over to the real now. And we'll have to see how fast this dive can act against this sort of Bastion poke comp.
Yeah, so Alex here on this Winston trying to just shove the payload here, trying to avoid all that incredible long-range damage coming out from the Fallen. Having to worry about this Ashe alongside a Bastion here is just absolutely so much to consider at all angles, running behind, running on top, running, you know, all the way above you here. But Benno on this Bastion is, yeah, just dropping down and cleaning up these lingering members. Ethan is here on this Ashe, but unfortunately is in a very uncomfortable position as you're just having to play alongside your supports here on the high ground. The Fallen have easily cleaned up this first fight here and burned a whole minute off the clock.
Yeah, and that fight right there is why you should normally only ever send your Tracer over to the cart, right? The Winston, as you saw, sort of just got isolated from healers, couldn't do much of anything except fall over. But now with some solid control of the high ground, you know, the Winston and the backline taking space here, going to be able to finally push Fallen back here. And if they can sync this up with some payload progress, it really can be a difference maker right now.
Antinate onto Perf has to drop down just to stay alive, but is able to do so, dropping out of the line of sight of Visored's offense. I mean, the Fallen really seem like they have got such a playbook here on Visored's comp. I mean, you are still running, of course, this Brig and Ana backline, but Alex is throwing so low, just manages to do the exact opposite of Perf and jump up to stay alive in this case here. But it is the dynamite kill onto Nyan Mudkip, so you really have to count for that here on the side of the Fallen. They're down a support, so only half the healing they're usually expected to get, but Wander does have this immortality field to keep you alive. But still, this is a difficult room to worry about when you're facing from all angles Visored alongside this Bob out from Ethan here. So this might be the best opening. I mean, this is just a absolute Winston's paradise. Delicious place to find the enemy team, but unfortunately you are still running into a Bastion, so you will lose Alex the carry alongside Scraggy and Shadowkilla. So Visored, what looked to be a winning situation here, just don't have the sustain in that drawn-out fight.
Yeah, and again, it's very interesting that Visored is choosing to sort of play into the poke composition in this way, right? Normally with the dive, you sort of want to execute around, but instead all stacking on the cart like that, getting yourselves caught in a very narrow corridor where a Bastion's more than happy to free farm, it definitely can be an issue here, but this isolation onto Perf is a beautiful way for the offense to start.
Yeah, that's exactly how you need to clean things up here. That Primal Rage doing you absolutely wonders here. Plenty of favors, but still falling so low. Again, the focus damage out from the Fallen defense here has been nearly unstoppable. Scraggy getting taken down once again as Benno on this Bastion is just kind of sniping out whenever you can possibly find somebody, and that is going to be Shadow Killer taken down as well. Oh, I know that pain very well, my friend. Wander does fall, so again, down a Bastion, but still the rest, or down a Baptiste rather, but still the rest of the Fallen here in the server room and alongside the back end of the payload. This is a tough point to push here as we are just cresting through the car wash section. You have this shield out here, everything to protect Benno, who's about to have this very useful ultimate from Bastion, of course, has to be said, online here. Just a chance to burn the clock for a few seconds more if you need to when the chips are down. But this high ground Ashe, so we do have the duel coming through as Dex and Ethan are trying to find each other out. Both, Ethan about to have a Bob online, gets the better of Dex. I mean, that's a perfect scenario for this Ashe. Now has to deal with so much less pressure here as Visored do have the room to work with, and again, only a few more meters to go, but also only a few more seconds to go as we are already in the final stages of this push here unless Visored can put it over the end of the first point. Ethan getting 2 kills, one with the Bob and one simply with that Viper there should be enough to open things up here for Visored as they finally in overtime push it into A.
Yeah, and I feel like it's very crucial that they get this done, like obviously for the sake of map progression, but being able to break that composition now also makes it so the Fallen is going to have a tough time getting set up in time on B to stop a lot of this early progress, like you're already seeing, right? Visored able to contest this early setup can make the difference here in helping them get a very fast push through B, where they're not able to set up in the same way that they wanted to.
Fallen here have their room to work with, but Ethan is now on top of the shuttle, so they have to be very concerned about an Ashe, and that is going to be the mortar strike out from the Bastion, able to clean up Shadow Kill and Alex the Carry while they're all worried about that death from above. So Visored well and truly dusted for this fight here. Scraggy's Wooyoung unfortunately not able to escape Benno's cleanup on that Bastion. So yeah, again, you've only earned yourself a 2.5 minute gain, and now already 1 minute of that is off the clock.
Yeah, and it's so interesting watching how the Fallen is playing this because I'm seeing Perf play a very aggressive Sigma game here in terms of positioning, almost to the point where, you know, if there was follow-up onto it, Perf would be seen as feeding and being taken out over and over again, but that's not happening. Instead, Visored choosing to ignore the Sigma is starting to really hinder them as you're seeing Perf just get more and more value.
Yeah, Dex just cleans up too to start off that fight there. So again, that's another fight just completely stuffed and tossed in a bag before you really have a chance to actually set up here. This close hold Sigma with, I'm assuming, has to be the levitation perk that he has access to. Honestly, incredibly mobile and has an immense ability here to actually hold down these high ground angles.
Yeah, it's certainly devastating here. And again, like the Winston's already made his way over to cart here. Now the Sigma finally having to backpedal, but you know, again, Visored having to just dedicate so many resources and ignoring the Sigma the whole time is not beneficial.
2 kills for Ethan. This might be just the thing to allow them to continue the push here. The cart has made a good bit of distance, but just no one on it right now. Perf able to launch an accretion though, sends Alex directly out of the fight. We are down to the last 15 seconds once again. Can Visored make it all the way through point B and do exactly what they did on A, or is this going to be the end of their push here and now? We've got the ults to work with now. Can they find the positioning and of course the card touch to do so? Dex falls, and that is 2 kills out there from that pulse bomb. Easy clap, making it look just that easy. Ethan does get taken down, so Perf alive on this objective for a few moments longer. I mean, 27 health and a dream. Can the Sigma alone do it? You have the Winston levitated up into the sky. The health starts coming back, and the Primal Rage is out from the Winston. Can they touch? 0.06 meters left for the defense to get their toes back on the point, and they send Alex the Carry packing. Turns out that is not going to be enough to land you into home with 0.06 meters into point B. That is going to be all the distance that Visored make on their push. I mean, what an incredibly clutch hold here for the Fallen.
I mean, like, especially that last fight, that was just all perf, and that might be showing the power of Sigma right now, being able to just go ahead, delete that tracer from existence and follow it up with getting the flux onto cart and things like that. It just shows, they're not just picking up this character for the first time, like, oh hey, this is really strong right now all of a sudden. No, this is something they clearly have their playtime on, a well understanding of the character, that now with an added buff into the game, they can become this demonic entity in the server here. And Visored has been struggling to find an answer here. Like, the dive has just not been synced up. Alex the carry, again, this is a prolific tank, absolutely amazing at the role, but just being punished over and over and over again, and sort of making a god on tank like this look mortal is just such an amazing look for the Fallen. And for Visored, on a dive map that they selected, they're sort of being shown, maybe their way of the game is just not it anymore.
You're absolutely right. This is not a composition you can just fully dust off and say, yeah, this will be fine. We can just run this up in, 3 days since the actual patch launched here. The pieces of this were already in place. It's delightful to get to see them, prove the effectiveness here. And now on the sim, on the offense, I mean, this is perhaps the platonic ideal of this composition here. You've got a Bastion directly in your face on the high ground, teleported there via your sim, who, has to be noted, can still do plenty of damage at all ranges. If you're not able to get out of the way of those orbs in time, they can easily chunk down your health. Alex Haver gets some tickle damage onto the opposition here, as the Fallen do lose their Symmetra early on, so easy clap on this Tracer. We've seen them come alive at the latter stages of that push into point B, so certainly eager to try and make this defense work as well for them. Alex the carry as well, able to get a nice kill for the side of Visored. So the Fallen, they're meeting some, resistance here coming out the gate.
Yeah, some interesting resistance to say the least here, and now I'm interested to see how the Fallen choose to play this, if they really are going to keep everybody stacked on the objective and sort of just dare Visored to come to them, because realistically nobody on the side of Visored can do this safely, right? When you're forced onto the Winston instead of the D.Va, no defense matrix, you just sort of have that bubble, and if you don't have it at all times, it really can be that difference maker.
Shadowkiller getting the best of his opposite in Nan Medkip, so that's an excellent opening here. Once again, the Visor just able to clutch it out on these early fights here on the defense. Easy clap as well. Yeah, cleaning up 2 kills there. Mortality field be damned. Visored are not done just yet here. They're able to halt this payload for a few moments longer here, but still, they've gotten the payload this far and have a whole 2.5 minutes left to go for their push. And Perf is still being staggered out just here a little bit, so this is actually not a bad stagger coming through. But Visored still have a lot of time to burn up the clock.
Yeah, still half the time bank of point A to work with here. Visored certainly has a task ahead of them, but they have tools to work with. And if Ethan can keep doing things like that, this is where the Ashe is supposed to thrive, right? You have the high ground control, and Fallen with no speed, there is a composition that you can sort of counter poke out with a solid hit scan, just constantly getting picks over and over again, being the difference maker here. But now with an assault on high ground, the Fallen are trying to change pace.
Bob ready here from Ethan could easily be a nice way to stall out that payload if the Fallen even get their way towards their objective. They're currently fighting over the higher ground, but that flux coming through. Oh, that Suzu perfectly timed, just saving Scraggy at a moment's notice. Goes for that Tidal Blast as well, locking down Perf on the objective. I mean, that's a terrible position to be in for a Sigma, but it turns out the Fallen are not too bothered whatsoever here. The Bastion ult is out. Oh, this poor Wuyong, where are you gonna go, buddy? There's no chance. The high ground is not saved from the Bastion. It turns out Shadowkiller is the one who's going to pay for that ult with their life. Alex the carry falling as well. That is going to be this defense crumbling before the combined might of a Bastion and a Sim. I mean, what year is it, Megalast? This is fantastic. Get to see such a crazy comp, but honestly, a very sensible comp out here from the Fallen.
Yeah. It's a change of pace that not many would expect here, and it certainly is catching Visored off guard, but Visored does have quite a few tools to re-engage, at least for this next fight. The Primal Rage for Alex to survive, along with a Bob and Kitsune Rush to help them retake space here, but it's very crucial that they actually are able to get these ults off.
Losing Alex immediately, just about to have access to that Primal Rage. Dex has been such an assassin on this Bastion here. already on the shuttle, full control over this highest of grounds. The cart is still moving here for the side of the Fallen's offense, holding the door here. We've got Perf, who is again facing a bunch of pressure. All right, might have been a little bit too forward positioning as Alex does clean up the opposing tank, so Visored now have a great chance to halt this momentum here. But you still have to dislodge Dex on the high ground. That is Easy Clap's job, but that tech grenade, yeah, that's going to clean up your Tracer. Not a whole lot of health to weather that massive explosive storm there. Alex is gone with the Primal Rage here, cleaning up Benno. Ethan falls though, so we are trading blow for blow here. Visored seem to be coming out on the better as this fight drags on and on, but Shadowkiller falling down. I mean, again, we're still trading here. It's not a real clean finish. These teams are determined to slog it out. There's no disengage whatsoever. Alex cleaning up 9 medkit might be just the thing to end this one, but Perf is still on the objective. Looks as though they will finally clean up that Sigma. Although, again, I've seen crazier things out from Perf already. Just manages to back away. Ethan gets a kill on the Dex. All right, so that is going to be the Bastion down. Just about to have access to that ultimate as well. So losing everyone else has to finally spell the end of this fight, right? No, Perf decides we're still going. This is going to be a continuous fight all the way through here as that Simwall comes out. The Flux ready to go. Tries to lock down that Winston. I believe just grabbed. Yep. Oh no, is able to catch the Bob instead out from Ethan. So that is one very low health, big Omnic Butler. And as the Bob falls, it looks as though Alex is able to hold the line here, and the rest of Visored rallying around. There is pressure still coming onto the objective. This fight is still being fought. The Fallen have decided they are not done until every single one of them hits the floor. And please let that mercifully be it for a moment.
I mean, the Fallen, that just shows hubris right there, and it potentially could end up costing them the map, right? They were so desperate to get the job done that instead of waiting, like you said, it was just a constant stagger fight. The defense is favored in that situation so unbelievably heavily that there's no reason to keep attempting that stagger fight for the attack. You literally just burnt almost 1.5 minutes off your time bank, and now put yourself in a disastrous position with no ultimates to speak of to try to get the job done here.
Now, Visored just able to section off one by one the members of your squad. Benno falls down, switching over to that Reaper, but not finding a ton of value into that incredible dive potential that Alex has proven to us time and time again here on this defense. Losing Ethan and Dex in equal measure here still. You have to favor Visored's defense, but losing Wander Perf falls as well, so it looks as though Visored might finally have a chance to hold this here. Down to 30 seconds for the Fallen's offense. And what a crazy point to hold if this comes through. They have the Primal Rage ready, and the Fallen, just a window ready, and are about to have that rush.
Yeah, and it's going to be so difficult, right? This is a composition with no speed, no real touch potential to get to the payload, that you're going to have to make yourself extremely vulnerable to a dive just to touch the objective here, as well as a Winston with Primal Rage ready to shred people like you're seeing now.
Yeah, is anyone going to be able to touch the objective? There is, in fact, no touch. They go for it, but that Primal Raging Winston, I mean, you called it out there, Megalast. There's just no chance to touch if an adept Winston like Alex the Carry decides that, in fact, you will not be anywhere near that. That is going to be a certified CGL S16, effectively held in place by the bouncer that is the Winston. Alex the Carry really living up to it here on the defense. Didn't get nearly as far as you would have wanted to on your push, but a really solid rally there in the hangar when it mattered most. It was insane, Megalast. It was honestly all over the place. But honestly, the breakdown of the comp there from the Fallen really cost them and came around to bite them. And now we are all tied up at 1-1.
Yeah, tied up one apiece here in a very interesting situation where, again, you know, for the most of that map, Fallen was in control, but then they just stagger for so long. Their hubris gets the better of them. You know, again, I talked about at the start of the series, level heads have to prevail here, and Fallen did not have that level-headed moment, and so it allowed Visored to sneak away this map win, and you cannot give your opponent an inch in a series like this, because I promise you, any team is ready to take a mile and take the whole thing off the back of it.
Yeah, but folks, we'll have to wait just a few moments to see our third map in the series. We're going to throw to a quick break, but do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. We are all tied up here in our NA Masters Division Finals. So we're looking at our third map of the series, but first, after we find out exactly where we are going, we have to know exactly what we are playing here. Well, looking at Runasapi is going to be our push map of the series. Honestly, I think this is a really exciting pick out here from the Fallen, of course, who now have the chance to decide once again where they take us. I think this is a really good pick for them, but honestly, all things considered, based on what we just got to see on Watchpoint Gibraltar, I don't really know what would be a good or a bad map for them at this point. They played Sigma on Gibraltar, and 75% of that looked really solid, but unfortunately that last 25 did come back to bite them, and Visored are now playing from a place of strength here. This series is at least going to 5 maps.
Yeah, and I mean, both these teams are familiar with the 5-map format, so we'll have to see how that shakes out. But like you said, Runasapi, very interesting pick, especially to go to push when you have other options in the pool here. So now the Fallen having to try to maybe make up a little bit of ground that they originally weren't planning on here. This could be a good map. I expect to see a ban in the tank variety, just because then you get to protect your Sigma for another map, as it seems like the Fallen are definitely dead set on perf playing the Sigma until the wheels fall off the cart, as the saying goes here. But you know, the things around the Sigma, like the Bastion, the Reaper, the Symmetra that we've all seen, they certainly can shake things up and be a difference maker as well here. So we'll have to see where this ban actually ends up landing here and what it's going to ultimately protect because of it.
Yeah, having a look at it's going to be the ban onto the Wrecking Ball. So yeah, we do know that despite the flexibility of Alex the Carry as your tank on Visored, that Wrecking Ball is a bit of a favored hero. And of course, this Runasapi is a really solid playground for a Wrecking Ball. So that's a solid ban out here, a much more consequential one than perhaps the Life Weaver that got to see out from Visored last time. But we'll see what answer comes. It's on the Symmetra. Okay, that's a solid read from both these teams here. I think you have to expect that you're going to see some version of this composition out here from the Fallen, you know, until, again, as you're saying, Megalast, until it stops working here. So getting at least one of the crucial linchpins of that comp out of their hands, honestly massive for both these teams coming into Runasapi.
Exactly. And so having that sort of tool, that sort of change up is certainly going to be massive in this situation here. So now, you know, we have seen where the Fallen operate without the Symmetra, and I'm not going to say that it looks that much different here. Obviously, the teleporters are nice to move this very immobile comp around here, but ultimately it does come down to just swapping over to that Reaper and giving yourself a better source of damage against whatever tank you end up playing, right? Now that the ball's been banned out, unless you decide that you want to rock out on the Diva, which certainly can be an option, especially with the Symmetra ban paired with that Wrecking Ball ban here. Any Brawl tank is really going to have to sort of face the Gatling gun of the Bastion here at full force. So it can be sort of a shoehorning of a composition setup here for Visored.
Yeah, I'm very eager to see what they want to roll out with. It looks as though you might be right here, that Diva is currently being hovered here by Alex, so we'll see if they stick with this. Honestly, considering what they wanted to come out with on Lijiang Tower, I think this is probably what Visored were hoping to run this entire series with slight variations on a map-by-map basis, whereas for the Fallen, it looks like, again, this is just in spawn. They could still change this at the final moments. Nope, they're sticking with the Venture and Bastion. I'm honestly really excited to see this version of this composition, but yeah, perf on the Sigma. I mean, again, until it stops, you gotta keep running it, I guess.
Absolutely, you have to. Just because, again, it works out in your favor. There's no reason to really change up what you're going to be seeing on this squad for the most part here. Now, the Fallen is obviously having that Venture in tow as well here. That's going to be your best way of dealing with the D.Va, but the question just comes down to, can they sort of use the DM to find something for the side of Visored?
Bot already slightly in control here of Visored, but still jockeying for position here on the high ground here in the neutral. Ethan trying to find the build-ups towards these rail shots just to pick off any of these squishy targets here. Both these tanks do have a solid amount of defense against, of course, projectile span coming out from the DPS lines here. So, but just entirely different fashions of it. Of course, Alex the Carry can kind of be anywhere at any time. But Benno finding the better of Easy Clap, I mean, that is a really solid early pick, but Alex the Carry able to get some revenge for your DPS, as well as clean up Nyan Mudkip. I mean, yeah, that's a really solid continuation. Make it a 3K here for the tank. Wrecking Ball or not, this D.Va's looking great so far, and if you can just finish off Perf, who is going to, as we've seen so far, stay in these fights until you physically force him out of it, just like that.
Yeah, and so now with Perf finally being removed here, you're getting some solid progress coming up for the side of Visored here. And again, it's about this dive composition sort of taking space, not allowing the Fallen to set up their poke angles here. But already they're being contested on the objective by a Venture that's going to be met.
Yeah, Benno just gets immediately taken out of the sky there. Alex flies to the Venger's tricks. Certainly at these close ranges. We're about to have ultimates here online for Visored. Alex, of course, head and shoulders above the rest of the squad here with all that damage coming through. That D.Va very much untouched in recent weeks. So, does get DMA'd, but of course, having that bomb ready to go does mean you get a second one. Perf, not quite out of range of that ultimate. I mean, that is incredible value coming out here from that D.Va bomb. Easy Clap able to clean up Nyan Mudkip as well. I mean, this is all free push here for Visored off the back of just a remake from that D.Va.
Yeah, and so now with just that remake, like you said here, Visored is going to be able to maintain control, get themselves firmly with those forward spawns as well to boot here, while Fallen can answer back rather quickly here. A pulse bomb also going to just send Dex right back to spawn as well.
Feel like Visored have finally unlocked something compositionally speaking here. They really seem to have found themselves a new gear to work with. We do have the bot swinging back in control of the Fallen, but Visored are all still alive and have presence around. They're just rotating towards the outside area of this neutral high ground. Flux comes out from Perf, trying to lock down Alex the Carry. If they can get that DMAC onto this D.Va, absolutely massive. But Ethan with this overclock is determined to put the team on his back, try to find the cleanup kills here. But it looks as though it is going to be the Fallen this time, who now finally have bot control and will try to maintain a lead here. Crucially, the point was not capped for Visored as the team kill comes through for the Fallen.
Yeah, and it's absolutely tragic that you see that coming through there for the side of Visored where they wanted to be able to execute here. So now already also getting a kill on Shadow Killer means this could be over before it begins.
Yeah, Scraggy invests the sound barrier just to keep the team alive and stable, but you would have loved to have both support ultimates there to allow and to sustain you the further this fight goes on, cleaning out the D.Va mech as well. This has to be another steamroll for the Fallen, rolling over their opposition here. Again, these early picks, which is kind of what this comp is perfectly designed to do, is exactly what you need to really clean things up and force. Look at the aggressive position out here from Perf and Dex on this high ground. I mean, this is a team who does not intend to let go until their hands are pried off the bars.
Exactly. And that's the situation that you want to find yourself in, where you're just that determined, that guaranteed, that locked in. But again, how they're going to push in with the Kitsune.
Yeah, the go-ahead with Shadow Killa's rush coming through on towards the pavement of the objective here. Ethan just snipes Benno out of the sky. Make that a second one as Naya Mudkip falls down in quick succession. And just like that, despite a lead being gained here, that is not nothing. And of course, still having access to those forward spawns. Visored now have bot control once again, but fighting back in that neutral, you're going to have the Fallen very close.
Yeah, the Fallen already going to be meeting them at the center here, so it is going to be another fight if they want those forward spawns for the side of Visored. And look at this. I mean, the entire side of Visored has just evaporated. They're so unbelievably terrified. They're handing space hand over fist to this poke composition when they just realistically can't. They have to start punishing it.
Yeah, the way you deal with Perf here is you have to run down that Sigma. I know those Hyperspheres deal a bit more damage, but you cannot let them get this free push, all this space being gained for the Fallen. They're right back where they started. It feels like they just came right from the spawn doors and had the red carpet rolled out for them to get the bot right back to where it was. Perf finding out Shadow Killa and Alex the Carry's mech being taken down. I mean, this is just free push being gained. What looked like such a solid engagement here. Ethan gets staggered out as Perf absolutely merciless. That skin is very appropriate for this particular Sigma player. We're looking at the spawn doors of Visored right now.
Looking at the spawn doors, Visored's going to be coming out of them with a Diva Bomb, so Alex has that remech potential here, as well as Ethan with an Overclock. We know how devastating Ethan can be in these situations with this key ultimate here, but Fallen can choose to fight back, or they can choose to just hand over ults.
Yeah, Alex already needs to use the Diva Bomb, but once again, Perf falls down to it. So a bit more distance there for your Sigma might be solid, but there's just no one left alive from Visored to push back against that bot. So blink and you miss it. The final fight done in a second. The Fallen battle back into this series here in just such commanding fashion. Honestly, Megalaz, I thought that we were going to see a much closer map with the way that Visored were able to gain control, but they really just kind of gave that bot back to, back to the Fallen here, and there was no taking it away from them after that.
Yeah, they just sort of like hand delivered it to the Sigma composition, and then they all just scattered on the side of Visored, right? You had 5 people there. You could actively choose to fight it, but instead, again, handing a poke composition space is the worst thing you could do, hands down, bar none. It is absolutely the biggest threat to Visored right now, is just giving too much respect over to this poke composition. I mean, that was an entire situation where you absolutely could have fought. Even if you lost the fight, at least you could say you fought. But instead, they just got free push to get back into the driver's seat and get that bot moving again here. So Visored has to be a little bit more objective savvy to get themselves back in line in the series.
Crucially, they will have the chance to choose our next map in the series here, but once again, find themselves on the back foot. So I'm curious to see how they want to, take things from here. I think that Flashpoint might be your best bet in terms of having an edge over that Sigma, but as long as you really have that Lucio available to you, I mean, it really has to come down to the bans. You have to ban out the Sigma for one map, and of course, for another map down the line, probably ban out that Lucio, because again, expect Perf to stick with this. This is what they want, the comp they want to run. They've made it very clear over the course of 3 maps, one of which, honestly, 2.5 of which, I wouldn't expect to see Sigma anyway, if it weren't this current composition being run here by the Fallen. So Visored have to take this massive necessary tool out of their opponent's hands if they want to have any hope of stopping this, because it looks like they're just not ready to deal with the full might of this poke comp. Honestly, a mirror would be the most terrifying thing to see here for Visored.
Yeah, and so living in fear of that mirror potential here, because again, you're not necessarily out of options for the side of Visored either, but your big ace in the hole was certainly a map like Watchpoint Gibraltar here, and there is no more escort, right? You're between hybrid or Flashpoint. We talked about it earlier. Flashpoint certainly can be a mode where you can punish that Sigma composition, run it down a little bit better. But I think regardless of map type, wherever we end up going here, as it's actually going to be revealed to be King's Row, which I feel like it's fine for the poke composition still, it still comes down to just a stylistic difference here, not necessarily in terms of heroes or anything like that, but you have to run down this poke. You have to sort of close the gap on it and sort of punish them. But Visored also going to be able to get first ban on this map, could make this King's Row pick worth it if they can just take the Sigma out of play.
Yeah, that's honestly the most important, position of this composition here, and save those other bans for later in the series. You need to swing things around. You need to bring this closer. They do, again, have one map. I don't want to make it sound like it's the most dire thing in the world, but you really need to start here and now, or else things are going to really start getting out of hand and out of reach the further we get into this series here. So, Visored's ban, or rather, Visored's ban is going to be coming up first here, looking at... I honestly, again, we have to see the Sigma. We have to see something that enables it potentially out here. It's going to be the Lucio. All right, that is my second pick. If you want to save that, Sigma ban for later in the series, yes, the Lucio is perhaps one of the most important enablers of that tank. But honestly, Perf was kind of doing just fine even when he wasn't being, zipped around the map.
Exactly, and especially with the Symmetra now being back here, I feel as though Perf is going to be perfectly fine with this. The entire side of the Fallen is going to be perfectly fine with the Lucio ban here. And banning out the Ashe specifically, something that gave them a lot of trouble in Watchpoint Gibraltar, a hit scan that's going to not be there to now rain damage down from the high ground. You're going to have to try to rely on other options like the Sojourn, who just don't play at that same damage range. You have to be a little bit closer into the fight to really be min-maxing and getting that same value here. So absolutely amazing ban for the Fallen here. Visored almost feels like it's a self-hinder, because I feel like they've been more reliant on Lucio with their dive comps. So I'm interested to see what Visored now intends to play now that the favorite frog is no longer on the battlefield.
Yeah, we really need to see these compositions from Visored. Whatever they want to run here, they made some adjustments, had a few different looks already so far this series. They cannot give any space or grace to their opposition here. The Fallen need to be taken to task in these long-range poke comps. I mean, you said it yourself, Megalas. You cannot let Perf just do this. You cannot just let these accretions, these hyperspheres come at you at range and run scared from them. You got to close that distance. That is the one place Sigma does not want to fight you, is directly up in his face. And we've seen already, I mean, I'm thinking Gibraltar specifically, Perf will not disengage. There is no retreat being sounded by this Sigma. You have to clean up that tank, or there is no end to the fight here. You have to count on that, as honestly, as much as it's strength for the Fallen, it has been a weakness for them, at certain points. I'm talking about their offense on Gibraltar, where like one fight that lasted a minute and a half should have been 2 or 3 separate engagements here. So there are weaknesses. There are exploits here that you can map onto for Visored. Fallen are not invulnerable. We just need to see them take those opportunities.
Exactly, find them out a little bit better here as we're getting a look at these compositions. Fallen, same little tried and true here. They are adapting to play the Lucio, or the Juno Kiri rather, with no Lucio in play. They still want to opt for speed on their defense. Meanwhile, Visored just going to take some pop shots on the Widow, but a Sigma Shield should put this to bed. And now, again, they're playing a very standard dive sort of setup, but because they took away speed themselves, they can't necessarily put it all together, so they have to have the Wu Yang as a substitute.
Yeah, the pressure can be a bit lacking here unless you get an early pick off here. Easy clap, of course, on this Echo that was banned out the first map on Lijiang Tower. So you really expect to see great things. You need to see some carry potential here from Easy. We saw a great amount of ability coming out from that Tracer pick of his. So looking to see even more from this Echo. But again, a bit fragile there when you're on the ground. You don't have that flexibility to run around in the skybox. Still just trying to get the damage laid in. If they know exactly what they need to do. They need to take down Perf, need to focus down Perf. That beam is exactly the execution tool that you need. There's nothing a Sigma can do but put up a barrier against that, and that beam loves to feast on those barriers. Benno does get taken down, so it looks as though this is an opening for the offense. Easy Clap even taking down Wander and losing, of course. The rest of the squad falling in quick fashion. Visored finally found the right rotation, able to get that early pick off. Everything else falling down like dominoes. Yeah, not even a chance for a touch from the Fallen.
Yeah, Visored, phenomenal rotation, like you said, moving through those high grounds and sort of forcing Perf to go down to the point. That way the Sigma could not help in the on the up top battlefield there. It really made a difference when you don't have to have that tank in play. Give yourself a 4v5 pretty much for free for the side of Visored here, who are now trying to push their luck with playing incredibly aggressive.
Yeah, very much trying to find some early positioning here. Alex the carry back here on this Diva has looked very solid so far in this series. Certainly did not win, of course, the last map where it was played, and getting a bit DMX'd here is an unfortunate situation which to find yourself. But as long as the team is pushing, which now they are, there we go, someone's on the payload at this point here, finally finding that control. But unfortunately, this spacing has allowed the Fallen to get back into an excellent defensive position. But Benno getting found out early here. Yeah, it turns out that all the positioning in the world does not matter as long as you've got the high ground angles coming through, and Easy Clap gets 2. Is it going to be a third? We have this Juno just strafing, trying to escape. No, Alex cleans up Wander on that back line. So the Fallen, once again, an easy collapse here for Visored as they continue rolling through B.
Rolling through B absolutely here, and they're going to have every single ultimate to boo Ethan a little bit behind, but I'm sure it'll get there in the end here. The Fallen certainly trying to match, but still going to be behind on a few key ultimates here. So Visored, if they can sort of keep up the tempo and aggression, just sort of start ripping things, they have the tools.
Yeah, this is a perfect positioning here from Ethan, who even doesn't have access to that Ashe. The Sojourn still proving to be just as valuable. The Diva re-mech just to stay alive, but it is Dags to the overclock. Cleans up that baby dude just before she gets back into the mech, cleaning up the Kiriko as well. It looks like the Echo soon to follow. Yeah, that is a 3K there for Dex. The Sojourn, an excellent pick here. Certainly don't have to worry as much about the Ashe. You really want to play that Sojourn if you're the Fallen.
Yeah, you want to play the Sojourn here, but you know, looking at the ult banks, right, we just saw Fallen invest the Flux, the Kitsune Rush, and that Overclock, all in exchange for a Diva Bomb here. So Visored more than happy with that, as they now have a huge ult economy surplus on top of the Fallen here. They just need to sort of, again, be the engagers and actually go forward with it instead of getting caught potentially in the choke.
Yeah, just the wall and the orbital ray ready here for the Fallen, but we've seen them so ready to take these fights so quickly. Goes for the teleport as a bit of a bait there. Just gets immediately blasted down, so no one's going to head to that high ground anytime soon. Easy Clap on in the high ground, the highest ground that there is, the sky, in fact, as Alex cleans up both DPS here. Visored just powering over the opposition as the Fallen have that sim wall, but that's kind of it here. Only Perp is alive and finally does meet a disengage, trying to get back to the rest of the squad. Easy Clap debating whether allowing that, and yeah, deciding to get some damage laid down. Wants to pressure down this Sigma as much as possible, decides to retreat to the rest of the squad here. Has this copy ready to go as the next fight is ready to kick off. Benno falls immediately as it begins here, and so it looks like that might just be the opening to clean things up for Visored. We are losing more and more bodies as this fight drags on. If Alex can keep in that mech, that will be all you need. That is point B capped. Visored, 3 minutes 30 into point C.
And Visored have found another gear, exactly what they needed to do here. It's not necessarily a hero issue, but just a tempo issue. They're closing the distance now. They're punishing this poke composition, not allowing it to get set up, and it's resulting in a massive time bank and a massive just difference in how they're playing here. I mean, Benno really has just been off sync, sort of staggered from the rest of the team for minutes now.
Yeah, just getting found out at the beginning of these fights here. That is Easy Clap going for the under wrap around and cleans up Wander. That is a perfect tech if ever I've seen it. Still has this copy ready to go as the orbit array is rolling from Wander. But of course, no Juno left alive to benefit from that very ult. And Mudkip falling down as well as Perf. This is the Fallen doing just their namesake here as Alex the carry as well, living up to that name. And we're rolling into point C with 2 minutes 40 in the bank here. Fallen have ults to work with, but Visored have momentum.
Yeah, tons of momentum here, but I think it's going to have to be a slight reset for the attackers while you have the Diva here. There are still some members on the respawn, and especially with Shadow Killer going down, Fallen is going to be able to get another defensive moment here. That being said, they're willing to re-engage.
Yeah, they're immediately sticking around in this fight here, not at all going too far from the action. Perf is able to land an accretion, but it looks as though the rest of Visored want to stick this one out as long as you have Alex the carry here on the objective. Cleaning up Perf as well. I mean, that is a massive opening. Gonna clean things up as long as you can take Benno out of this fight, who is just happy to find themselves in the back line for a few moments before getting blissfully eradicated by Ethan Sojourn. I mean, Megalast, this is the exact adaptation we were hoping for out of Visored, looking very solid in a commanding 2 minutes in the time bank for a full cap on King's Row. You do not see that every day.
You do not see that every day here. And again, like you said, this is what we've sort of been saying for Visored, right? It's a very clear adaptation that they've needed to make where they've had to sort of up the tempo here, and they finally do it. And look at that, it's executed flawlessly here. Now Fallen the ones that have to try to formulate some kind of response here, because the issue is now that Visored has discovered this kryptonite here, unless Fallen can find a way to slow the tempo back down, which is realistically damn near impossible, this is a problem that they're going to have to deal with for the rest of the series. And there's not exactly bans that you can lean into if you're the Fallen to try to mitigate this problem. This is a problem across the board.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's less of a compositional thing and more of a mindset, more of a concern of the tempo that you're playing here. We were able to identify, what the weakness is of the Sigma composition here. It's just run directly at their face, or at least find these angles to work around. Because again, Perf's shield is directional, of course, for both angles that it is out there, but you really have to just shoot behind it. You just have to find a way to get around that obstacle being presented to you there. And of course, that teleport out here from Benno is usually able to serve them in good stead, but Visored just able to fly over and skirt around. It's just been so effective here for them. So now we'll see how it bears on the defense. Teleport strat, though, from the Fallen. I mean, you certainly could have seen it coming a mile away. And they do clean up Wander, Dex, and Nyan Mudkip for it. So it turns out more than just enough is obvious here for Visored on their defense. Perf does get one kill, but that is going to be it for the offense here. And yeah, a good read from Visored.
Phenomenal read here. Those teleporters, which we were praising earlier on in the series back on Lijiang for being unpredictable, have unfortunately been discovered here. It's almost like Visored has finally opened their eyes to seeing what's going on around them here. So now, seeing how the Fallen chooses to play, no more Symmetra, having the Venture once again here. But how do you realistically achieve being a difference maker on the Venture here?
Yeah, it's just not able to find any real heroes to lock down. Everyone on Visored has so much mobility available to them, and of course, plenty of burst damage potential. So, not a lot of easy targets for the Venture to actually clean up. And losing your partner in Dex's Sojourn is already going to make this so difficult, as you just have the Venture on the objective, able to get a single tick. So that is not nothing here for the offense, and just skirting away with life intact. So the Fallen have all bodies back in this engagement here, and that is going to be the Diva Bomb there just to get back into mech. The Pulse Bomb, however, from the Easy Clap is just the thing to find the kill. Nyan Mudkip and Easy Clap both falling down here, so trading 1 for 1 on either side of this engagement here, folks. But it is going to be Perf ready with this Flux. Goes into the sky with 26 health. Yeah, that was certainly a very ambitious ult, I think is the nicest way you can put that. Benno is still doing some work in the backline as Scraggy does fall, and Alex SDMech once again losing it to the Kiriko as well. I mean, so on the back of a very messy engagement, the commit of that Flux into 0 health, the Fallen have still made this one work, and Visored in the chaos lose point A, and there's a 4 minutes 30 in the bank for the Fallen.
Oddly, I feel as though this is a choice from the Fallen. Maybe not the Gravitic Flux Ajax, if you will, but just overall making the game more chaotic, right? Making it more spread out across the place, right? Visored, they're a well-oiled machine when together, but if you isolate each individual component, they can act frantically here. So the Fallen using Benno on that Venture, finally seeing what the value is, and it's just disruption, right? Constantly being a chaotic factor and making the Fallen, once again, an unpredictable team.
I like this Brig on the push here for the Fallen. Nyan Mudkip rolling out with that rally, locking up Alex the carry in a small enclosed space. Yeah, certainly an uncomfortable place to be in the face of that mace. So, yeah, a really solid adaptation out here from the Fallen's offense. But now we are starting to get into the messiness that is the point B push. Visored are a bit scattered here. They're trying to play to each other's strengths, trying to find that high ground out. And, of course, you do have to worry about Alex behind you with that Diva Bomb ready to get back into the mech in a moment's notice. The overclock out from Ethan from the high ground turns out to be all you need, as that Rush looking very shy there. The rest of Visored able to combine for more and more kills. Only Perf really left alive, and will we able to get the Sigma back out and stay alive? Yeah, it looks as though they might be able to. We're still pushing this very far for the defense.
Yeah, incredibly far in the fight here. So now for the side of Fallen here, having to try to, muscle their way past everything here. But they've tapped out their ult bank. They've tapped out a lot of resources, whereas Visored has everything right now. Defensive positioning, ults to boot. I mean, really, they're in such a comfortable position for the defense.
You just need to worry about picks here, and of course that Pulse Bomb rather, ready for Easy Clap, who's been so lethal with these at all points. The support line is very low. Perf is pushing all the way into the sections of point B. So Visored are kind of caught off the back foot there. That rush gets laid out over the objective, but the rest of the team is still able to keep themselves alive for moments and moments longer, but there's no healing to be had whatsoever. Alex has to make this sliver of health in that mech work, but that is going to be a D-Mech into the Diva Bomb. Will the baby Diva survive? Perf allows himself to get obliterated for the third time this series. Megalith, I feel like this is some sort of personal gamble we're watching here, where Perf just has to allow every single of these Diva Bombs that he's in range of, just to completely allow that to occur on that poor Sigma's head. So maybe they just want to get a disengage and go back with the rest of the team, but feels odd.
Sigma 101, make sure you're tracking your shield, holding the shield out there, forgetting that it was out, just making it so you can't recall and put it out again in time for your own protection here. That being said, Fallen has been able to break through Visored's advantage here, and now with an early pick as well, might finally be finding an opening.
Yep, Perf's back into this, which means Perf is killing again. So that is exactly the win condition that the Fallen are looking for here. They lose Benno, but having Alex completely taken out of this engagement here allows Dex to just lay down so many rail shots, cleaning up Scraggy. And it looks as though they're able to clean up point B here, and not a moment too soon, as they only have, yep, that is going to be just over 2 minutes 40 in the bank into point C.
Yeah, it's technically a higher time bank for now here, but they still have to finish the map. If they're able to do it at all here, Visored still can put on a point C defensive hold here. You have a ton of ults coming up for both sides here. I think the biggest thing to focus on is going to be these overclocks, right? Ethan has been devastating every single time that ultimate comes up for Ethan. You're seeing it just be a massive factor.
Tidal Blast onto the Diva. You're getting so much value from that one. Wander put in a very uncomfortable position there. The rally rolling from Naya Mudkip, just trying to save the fellow support. Not able to do so. Perf falling down as well. I mean, that should really put the victory of this fight in the hands of your defense. Alex the carry, though, does get taken down. That mech gets booped off into oblivion. So this is actually a massive opening here for the Fallen. We go for it with the Tectonic Shock, but Benno dies mid-ult as well as Dex. So that is a kill coming through. So still some value to be gained, but Visored do look like they have the better of this engagement. These fights have just been so chaotic here, which, as we speculated, might be exactly what the Fallen is hoping for here, but it certainly does feel like they're kind of giving as good as they're getting as these fights drag further and further, with time getting whittled off. About 90 seconds left to go.
Yeah, and exactly that. Time being a factor here, but already trying to engage with the Flux. I mean, truthfully, from Perf, these have not been the most impactful Gravitic Flux this year, so we're trying to see if something can be mitigated here.
Able to find out that Diva, and of course, causes the Suzu to be invested, but they're still going for the Kitsune Rush in that tiny enclosed corridor. I have to control my sanity here. I'm feeling very normal about all of this here. That is going to be the Diva Bomb out just to get a remake here. Alex the carry is not able to get back into the mech. It looks as though the Fallen might just be able to push all the way into point C here without a Diva to hold the gate against you. Benno cleaning up Shadow Killa and Easy Clap in quick fashion. That is going to be 1 minute in the bank. 2:17 for Visored. We're going into extra innings here on Kings Row.
That was not a C9. They all died. Shut up. Shut up. That was not a C9.
We have enough going on.
Enough going on is an understatement here. But the biggest thing to note is that time bank differential. Like you said, only a minute for the Fallen versus Visored, having an extra minute 17 seconds on top of that. The biggest thing for the Fallen as well, their attack, it is unfortunately rather predictable here. For them to try to get in, it did take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and sort of chaos picks, hero picks almost coming out from the DPS line here, and that's not something you can necessarily rely on or guarantee in an engagement here. So Visored definitely looking pretty for this defensive setup, and now that, especially in overtime rounds, both teams are going to have perks online. I'm expecting Alex the carry to just sort of be able to go in and delete people from the game before they have a chance.
Yeah, this is really the chance to buckle down, decide how you need to make this 1-2 if you're lucky if fights go your way. But honestly, with the way the Fallen have been making these engagements go, they might just drag out to one lengthy engagement here. So really curious to see if they're going to allow that aggression coming out the gate here, or if Visored's defense are going to be able to shut this down. If you can get a solid rail shut off, a single pick might be enough to earn you the positioning for the defense. But for the Fallen, this Brig and Kiriko, I still do enjoy that. It's good here on the offense. It's a bit better in the push phase, but they've already found out the D.Va demeched and cleaned up Alex the carry. I mean, forget carrying. There's nothing more to do but for your team to put you in a box, sending you quick, sharp back to the spawn room. Shadowkill does get a 1 kill for the side of Visored, but the Fallen are playing with house money at this point here. 25 seconds left to go, and they might have just full capped A.
They might have. They're going to be a re-engagement attempt from Shadowkiller here, but with Easy Clap already missing as well here, it might be just a long lost goal. And Fallen now moving into point B here, especially with the Tracer missing. Easy Clap had that super long respawn here. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Visored to get a full fight without giving up a ton of ground.
All right, folks, we are now in overtime. You cannot leave this payload without losing this push. So in the high ground window, you do have Alex the carry looking down over the back line, trying to find someone to force onto, and then it's going to be Dex cleaned up here. An excellent early pick, but the Fallen are not done. They cannot leave this payload. They have to fight this one out to the very last body. Taking down that Brig is absolutely got to be the nail in the coffin here. Everyone else soon to fall like dominoes on the side of the offensive team here, but Visored, they crucially did let point A get capped. That cart was unlocked. We have begun a push. So there is a win condition here for the Fallen's defense.
Yeah, but it is pretty much going to come down to holding point A. If Visored are able to cap, I mean, it would be a gargantuan task of any team to be able to make a hold, right? I mean, look at this. The cart didn't even make it all the way through that choke point here. Especially with the Fallen's comp, how slow it is. If they get staggered out trying to defend point A, I mean, it's just already forget about it, right? That defense is not going to be able to muster up a solid second fight here. So the Visored definitely has a good chance to do this. The biggest thing is just, again, keeping calm, level heads here. You can't let a map like this slip away in this situation because, you know, again, Alex Secure, we saw on that attack for the Fallen, just evaporated in the span of 2 seconds by being mispositioned in hotel for even a moment here. So it is going to sort of be that different factor for Visored here now that they're on the attack.
All right, we'll see if the composition is enough to bear them to victory. And again, the time bank being in your control is absolutely massive here. You have more than double the time to push this through that the Fallen did. But again, if you start having these fights, you know, trickle one after another out of your hands, you get desperate. That is where the mental game really comes to a head here. You said it yourself, Megalas. We have to see if they have the fortitude to stick through this one. But of course, the Fallen do have the greater task ahead of them. Have to full hold this just to keep themselves alive in this map, rather. They would love to have this cleaned up and would love to go up by 2 in the series, but the Visored are just doing their very best to try and even the score here, of course, on their map selection. Easy Clap getting an early pick on the Benno. That is exactly the opening you need, and that spells doom here for the Fallen. This Echo can be absolutely devastating, but X is still here cleaning up on that railgun. So this is certainly a winnable fight here for the Fallen's defense. There has been 1 tick gain so far, and Dex with this railgun has proven so devastating already, but Ethan is just as viable on the side of Visored. We do lose both tanks, so this is kind of a slog here from squishy to squishy. Dex and Ethan still in this fight. As long as one is alive, there is still death to follow. Dex trying to clean up, gets another onto Easy Clap. I mean, hero of this map, however it goes for the Fallen. This is their MVP for this team, but that is going to be the point unlocked. But crucially, early spawns gained for the Fallen.
Not only early spawns, Dex didn't get the forward spawns. This is the worst situation, the thing I predicted for the Fallen here, where they're not going to be able to mount a full-scale defense because their Sojourn is still sliding back into the fight here. So it's going to be something where you have to contest. Like, look at that golden box of victory. It's right here on the corner. There's no room to give for this defense anymore. And now Alex trying to hunt Dex.
This is exactly what you need to see out from this D.Va, but you do have the Mei playing gate guard, so the DPS keep themselves alive in the backline, but you're still fighting 3v4 on the payload. However, as long as Perf is still holding strong, there is hope for the side of Fallen. Takes a bunch of damage, and we'll see if we get Alex back in this fight, or if that's still the duel happening behind us here. Trying to stay alive, Perf goes for the kinetic grasp, but Dex is going to fall. Alex is able to get the better and make that a second for the tank. Visored have just, looks like they have done it. Cracked this one wide open. Evened up the series. It's gonna be a long one here, Megalas. We are 2-2 with Kings Row going the way of Visored.
2 apiece here, but again, it's a nail biter. Extra innings on Kings Road to tie us back up here. Ethan certainly stepping up here, not just in the play of the game, but just in general. Again, this DPS duo back and forth between Ethan and Dex, especially in the Sojourn duel, is so interesting to watch because of how unbelievably close they are on top of each other at all times, willing to do this damage back and forth here. And the Fallen, I mean, like, obviously they know what their composition is, they know where their bread is buttered, but the issue is the situation they find themselves in. Like we talked about all series long, they now have to head into Flashpoint for map number 5. While they're able to pick which of the 3 Flashpoint maps we go to, none of them are going to be really suited to that Sigma composition, and they're all going to be suited to Visored being allowed to run it down here. We're seeing Alex finally come online, especially with this D.Va, in a very aggressive game style here. So it is being a massive difference maker.
Yeah, honestly, really loving to see the adjustment of tempo here for Visored, but of course, that was just bringing it to, equality between these two teams here. We'll have to see what adaptations come through from the Fallen, as now, of course, Ball is back in their court. They have control over where exactly we are heading for our next map of the series here, but of course, map 5s, as we've noted, are no stranger at all to these two teams here, and vice versa. So, I'm curious to see exactly what angle we want to dive in with this one, just with the way that we're able to see sort of the cracks start to form in the composition here for the Fallen. Of course, again, it hasn't been perfect the entire way through the series, to be very clear. We are at 2-2 here, but this Sigma composition, it does feel like the wheels, if they're not coming off, they're wobbling pretty bad. So you have to have the flexibility and the versatility to know that, hey, we might not be able to run this ad infinitum here. This might not get us all the way over the finish line. And if that's not the case, especially considering that Sigma ban is still on the table here, crucially, only the Lucio was banned out from Visor last time. So that Sigma ban is still very possible here, and that could be just the thing to put you in the lead of the series if I'm Visored.
Exactly right, because both these teams are now trying to vie for the lead here. We're back on that even playing ground, but the maps are starting to dwindle. Like we said, Flashpoint has to come next here, and it is going to be a Suravasa pick for the Fallen. Now, again, the question comes down to, will there be a switch up in another level that the Fallen chooses to go to, or is it just all eggs in this one basket? The upside being, again, they have this first ban, and I mean, realistically, even if the series goes the distance here, it is going to come down to Visored having to try to get an upset on a map that they didn't pick at this point to win the series out, thanks to Fallen winning that map number 1.
Yeah, we actually have seen these teams both win the maps that they have selected so far in this series. Of course, having the option of choosing the first one, being the higher seed, the Fallen do kind of have the advantage on that. If we do trade back and forth like this, map 7 would also be their selection if the trend follows, which of course is not a guarantee. So yeah, Visored certainly have to be thinking about that in the back of their minds, along with everything else they're considering here, compositionally and, existentially here as we dive into Suravasa. But before we head into that here, we are going to adjust real quick what we exactly see. It looks like it's going to be New Junk City instead of Suravasa, folks. Would you believe it? Flashpoints. We have to just have a look at both of our, well, there are 3 at this point here, but both of the Flashpoint maps the teams want to take us to. It is going to be New Junk City, going once, going twice. Yes, this will be our Flashpoint.
Yeah, this will be the Flashpoint. They decided to hit a little switcheroo. Nobody wanted to go to Suravasa. Hey, New Junk City, that's perfectly fine. Listen, I'll give the Fallen, potentially the best blessing or the best caster curse that they've ever seen in their life. I once played Sigma in New Junk City, and I won the map. Granted, it was like trolling in low plat, but same thing, give or take a little bit here. So maybe the Fallen has something cooked up for this map here. Tons of different lineups for symmetric teleporters and things of that nature. I am just, again, very interested to see how this ends up going, because we talked about it, right? I mean, so far the map pick has been the deciding factor in what comes away. It's also important to note, right? Every single time Fallen has come up with a map pick, you're seeing it on your screen here. It's a dominant map win, right? Full cap on Runesapi, taking only 2 rounds of Lijiang to get the job done here, versus every time Visored is coming up with a map pick, while they're getting it done, it's so incredibly close. It's honestly on a knife's edge a lot of the time here.
Yeah, with honestly as close as we've seen. I mean, King's Row went to extra innings. You don't really get much closer than that. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see the new gear that we're going to have to, anticipate here from the Fallen. I would love to see them stick with the Sigma if they're allowed to do so. I think if I'm them, you want to protect ban out the tank if you're determined to run that. Or you just have an absolute curveball to throw and decide you want to play something else here and don't even mind the Sigma ban. But just based on evidence, yeah, that is an excellent both protection and also to remove that Zarya, as of course we did see Visored roll out with that on Lijiang Tower. They did of course lose that map, but that is one of the few heroes that can actually play spoiler to the Sigma on occasion.
Yeah, in playing spoiler to the Sigma, like you said, it can, be that factor, that extra inning here. So the Zarya ban makes sense. The Venture ban also making complete sense, because Ben certainly being a menace on our favorite non-binary character. I mean, it's just taking the drill out of the equation, not wanting to have to deal with any or everything here. As we look across the series bans as a whole, it's interesting to note that Visored still has the Sigma ban in the back pocket here. So honestly, we could end up in a world where Fallen needing the Sigma in the final moments could be missing their crucial character here. And that's not a world they want to be in. So I think they're definitely going to try to push to win this, at least win this map. That way, if they're going to force the Sigma ban out, at the very least it's on map 6 when they still have another map to give.
I do like the image of the Sigma ban kind of hanging over the Fallen's head, a sort of Damocles style there, just ready to go, push, break glass in case of Sigma emergency. It feels like this entire series has been a bit of a Sigma emergency here. But no, crucially deciding to save it until the very final throes of the series, as it were. If you win this map, excellent. Of course, you just want to take the next one, so you want to get that Sigma out of the way. Nice, easy. If you lose this map, of course, you can't afford to lose that next one, so you take the Sigma out of the equation. Nice and easy. If we see the next map in the series, because of course, folks, this is first of 4, so we are seeing at least one more after this one, do not worry. But if a Sigma ban does not come through for that, I'm going to be kind of disappointed and upset and sad, and probably will cry on stream here, but we don't have to worry about that too much. As Visored rolling out here, Alex the carry on this Junker Queen, and Perf, yeah, he's going to stick on the Sigma. I am delighted that they are continuing to run it. I cannot remember, I know Megalas, you talked about your own escapades playing a Sigma here on New Junk City, but I am delighted, thrilled, and absolutely gobsmacked to see it here all the way through, as Perf is deciding to make this, we're playing Brawl Sigma. It's going all the way forward here. This shield is coming directly at you. Do not press go. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 as Ethan cleans up Wander on the back end of this one here. Yeah, you're kind of having to face at all angles the incredible aggression coming out here from Visored, and that is going to be Perf cleaning up Shadow Killa, but the kills very much falling the way of Visored here. Only a couple dropping on their side. Crucially, it is their support, so not a lot of healing. In fact, 0 healing being in whatsoever, apart from the self-heal out from Alex, but that is going to be easy clap winning things out. First point goes towards Visored.
Yeah, and I mean, Visored, honestly, they were playing like a bunch of sharks there. It was almost terrifying, right? They were just sort of circling the Sigma comp, waiting for the slip-up, waiting for the moment that somebody isolated, and then hunting like the pack predators that this Junker Queen comp knows how to be. It's old school, but it's very effective against this style of play where your opponents are trying to slow down the game.
Yeah, I like the swap going away from the Symmetra. We have, of course, Dex on the Sojourn and Benno now on the Reaper. So this should provide you a good bit of pressure, but again, not a lot of meaty targets here. Really just hoping to find someone to laser focus on. Ideally, you want to find out Alex, but still has plenty of close range potentials of her own here. This Junker Queen does, but not enough to stand down against Benno's Reaper. That is the switch up in terms of the DPS line that you want to see, and not a moment too soon, as at 73%, get the point flipped over over to the Fallen's favor, and they will now be holding defensively. An early kill onto Scraggy, or rather a very late one. I mean, that's going to earn you an entire fight and a good 20 to 30%.
Yep, that's the nature of Flashpoint maps. They tick up so incredibly fast that little picks like that can be the difference maker sometimes in taking entire rounds and sub points on this map. As we look here, Visored definitely going to try to close the distance once again here. Easy clap building up towards that Dragon Blade here. Lots of things you can run down with it, and I feel like Neon Mudkip has a very difficult task of what to use the sound barrier for.
Yeah, do you want to engage with it here? It's going to be a tempo beat, but Perf falling solo. You need to use that sound barrier just to keep the Sigma and everyone else alive. But this Junker Queen out from Alex has got laser sights set directly on that Sigma. Plenty of ults ready for both of these sides here. It is going to be the Rampage out from Alex, allowing, but unfortunately Easy Clap gets taken down. Ethan falling as well. Benno on this Reaper has proved to be the absolute lifeline for the Fallen here, losing only Dex, the rest of the team alive and kicking, and they will take the first flashpoint here. So that is a solid swap here, and only spending those 2 ults, whereas Visored, yeah, we're seeing Alex swap already just to deal with this Reaper.
Yeah, and Wander, I mean, absolutely the hero of that fight, right? Because, I mean, as we saw, Neon Mudkip had to use the sound barrier incredibly early just to keep Perf alive. So a well-timed Suzu mitigating the entire value of that Rampage there to keep everybody in the fight, allowing Benno to do just that. And now we're already seeing an aggressive attack.
Perf engaging with that Flux, just manages to catch Ethan, who gets away with only a sliver of health and cleans up Benno on the back side of that. So absolutely maximum value to be gained here from Visored. Just trying to build it towards the rest of those ultimates, but of course you do have this Blade ready to go, which might be just the tempo you need to clean up the rest of this fight. Actually, cleaning up Dex, you might not even need to spend any ults here. The point does get flipped over to the Fallen first, but now they're on the low ground and stuck very much in one spot here. This Blade comes out, just hoping to cut through all of that Sigma HP pool. Yeah, that is going to be Perf well and truly cleaned up here. The barrier on the back end just to keep the rest of the team alive. They're still facing tons of damage and pressure as the remaining members of the Fallen are coming back into contest, but it's not going to be enough, and Visored will flip it at only 30% gain for the Fallen.
Yeah, but I mean, also for the Fallen, I mean, you absolutely take that, right? What starts off as a 4v5 because Benno decides to just feed a Death Blossom into 5 different people that are 8 miles away. Visored has to invest both the Blade and Sound Barrier here, so definitely a hit on the ult bank here. Where Fallen, you're more than happy to take that and try and re-engage now.
Yeah, Visored about to have 3 ults online here defensively, but of course they have to hold nice and close because Perf is not going to give them room to work with. And you, of course, do not want to give that Sigma any space whatsoever here. That shield gets nearly blasted down, but Benno is just there in your backline, finding out Shadow Killer immediately as that rush gets laid down. That is going to be a re-mech as well for Alex to carry. So already 2 of those ults, and of course Ethan has already been taken out. So nothing left in the bank here for Visored. The Fallen have re-engaged with incredible results here. That will be the flip once again for the Fallen, and Visored have a mere 85%, so 1 fight territory for them.
I mean, it's honestly impressive, right? Because the Fallen are playing so incredibly split on top of each other, where you're looking at Perf, you're looking at Dex, and all of a sudden, oh hey, Benno on the Reaper, stuck into the backline, and kills Shadow Killer of all people, the person who has a Suzu, a teleport away, everything in the kitchen sink to be able to avoid those Hellfire shotguns, and still can't manage to do it here. So absolutely amazing that this DPS line on the side of Fallen can just keep coming up with these clutch picks to start off fights.
Looking for Dex on this high ground with this overclock. Ethan, however, is the first to pull the cord. Mirrored on the opposite side as Dex is facing down an entire D-Matrix, but the rest of the team is there to clean up that Diva, that rush especially. Perf does fall, but we are down to tank on either side of this engagement here. These Sojourns both doing so much work both in and out of ult, but it is going to be Ethan finding the better of the opposite in Dex. So this might just be a flip at the very end of it here. There are still just enough bodies left to keep things annoying for the side of Visored. The Fallen finally fall themselves, and it's going to be tough to even find a chance to touch here. Yep, no, with Benno down, you're definitely done.
No more touches, especially with those late deaths here. So now we're tied up 1 apiece on Junker down here. And again, it just comes down to both these teams are so committed to these fights that they're not even willing to give an inch, and sometimes that's hindering you, right? Flashpoint is very much a mode where you kind of have to be willing to give certain sub points if you know you're at disadvantage, but instead, everybody's choosing to go all in and invest everything every single time, and if you're not the team coming away with the fight win, then it's absolutely a thorn in the side.
Alex already demech'd just as the fight begins here. They're putting so much pressure on this D.Va, forcing them to spend this D-Matrix immediately here. That is the Blade, but also countered seconds of Blighter by that Death Blossom out from Benno, who gets shut down. So only losing easy clap as Benno falls. It looks as though there are just enough bodies to keep this one in control for the Fallen, but I think we're 3v3 here. Just having your tank provides so much more stability for the Fallen to work with, and it looks as though they will have the Sound Barrier as well, but answered with that and another support ultimate ready for Visored. Of course, about to build up towards a couple more as well, as this next fight is just about to begin. Expect a tempo beat here from Neon Mudkip. Has been very solid with these so far, but only lands on 3 targets, as of course Dex has already fallen, and Benno just around doing Reaper things in the backline. Shadow Killer able to clean up Perf. Neon Mudkip falling as well. That is going to be Visored gaining control once again. These points have been so hotly contested.
So hotly contested, but Visored, it feels like, is more stable when they get into control here. Like, for example, they have a phenomenal position, right? Just using the Blade Kitsu, having that overclock from Ethan that we know is devastating, as well as Scraggy's Sound Barrier to boot. Should somebody drop incredibly low, I mean, there's tons of tools and resources, whereas the Fallen completely have nothing here. So they're just going to have to try to raw push and find something.
Yeah, this is honestly, you need to find some control. Here we are 1v1 with these flashpoints, so Visored would love to just hold strong here. If they can win this fight out, that's going to put it in such an awkward position for the percentage gain of the Fallen. Already taking out Neon Mudkip, who is really building up towards these sound barriers, is one of your saving graces the longer and longer these fights drag on here. But Wander is going ahead with that rush, as well as the flux out from Perf, trying to lock up. That is going to be Alex the carry. Is this going to be the time? Yes, Perf manages to get that barrier up just in time to live through that D.Va ult. So turns out one can even learn here in the grand finals, people, and that's beautiful, I think. But it's going to be overclock here rolling through for Ethan. Dex falling down, not able to mirror that on the opposite side. Visored just able to lock down the opposition a bit more effectively here. Taking down the tank, of course, really does help things. So that is going to be the second point going the way of Visored.
And Visored now find themselves 1 point away from being able to give themselves the lead for the first time in this series, the position they wanted to be. Yeah, I was going to say there was definitely a rock in the face for Scraggy's beat there, but that happens to the best of us. I wasn't going to call it out, but it's okay. Our prod did it for me here. So now, already meeting on this point, at the very least, Fallen was able to get here first thanks to their respawns.
Yeah, Blade ready to go for easy clap, so expecting that to be pulled here, but of course not a lot to combo with until Shadow Killer gets this rush online, which should be pretty quickly here. These Kirikos, of course, have plenty of flexibility with their damage and healing both, and that is going to be the Blade out. Just try to stay alive, does not want to eat a rock in the face, all the cooldown spent, but the longer this drags on, the more you have the chance of taking so much of that CC, as Perf is able to find Shadow Killer, bypassing the Genji entirely, leaving that for Dex to clean up, and that is going to be, it feels like deja vu at this point, Megalast, where the Fallen gain first control. We'll see how long they hold on to it.
Yeah, especially, again, it feels like deja vu because it's happened every single time, but not able to hold it in a vast majority of these situations here. Interesting approach where they're trying to play up a little bit more instead of just waiting on the objective and trying to play the choke points. It's interesting because, again, it closes that distance naturally for the opposition, and so Perf is at a disadvantage here when they're closing the distance like that.
Yeah, Benno trying to play Gate Guard as well. If they get behind Perf, you still need to run into those Hellfire shotguns. And of course, a Death Blossom waiting to be unleashed here. Have to let it rip at some point in this fight. And of course, with that Sound Barrier, might be just the thing to keep you alive, as Neon Mudkip is ready to use those. Again, as we've highlighted, very keen on these tempo beats just to keep people alive as the fight is really kicking off here. But losing your mech early on, Alex essentially neutralized early in this engagement here. That is the Flux coming through, and Shadow Killer, that is an unfortunate position to find yourself in as a Kiriko. None of those cooldowns going to serve you very much at all. And blink and you miss it, but bomb flats are done. That was a quick 100% gain for the Fallen, and we are going to a 5th and final flashpoint. How could it be otherwise?
I mean, yeah, if there's a way to sum up this series, it's a 5th and final point here. But, Visored did exactly what I wanted for a team here, where you didn't invest anything knowing that you weren't going to get in. So now you have a solid ult economy, but that doesn't help if Perf just gets a kill.
Yeah, that economy doesn't mean a whole lot with no one alive to even spend it, but Alex getting the better of Perf is actually the perfect answer to that initial pickoff. So this could be the chance for Visored to hopefully hold down some control here. But again, anytime Alex goes anywhere close to the DPS, just takes so much damage on the approach that you have to spend that bomb just to get back into the mech there. That is a booped away Beyblade. Gets cleaned up at the back end of that. Sound barrier from Scraggy just allows the team to sustain through it, but unfortunately still took a hefty chunk of damage. And that return barrier out from Nia and Mudkip, there is about, what, 3 and 3 left alive for each side here as Dex is able to clean up Easy Clap. So really favoring the Fallen as this fight drags further and further, but Dex, who was so close to building towards that overclock, falls to Alex the carry, who's now back in mech, back in the fight here. So it's just Perf and Nia and Mudkip trying to stay alive, eating so much of this damage, make that the rest of the squad coming through as well. So it's going to be flipped once again for the Fallen here. Visored, oh, actually, that was first cap. Okay, that entire fight was just to get first cap.
Yeah, and both teams threw a lot into that here, and now we're going to have the Tale of Two Sojourns once again, potentially deciding this map here with both of them having overclock, the only tools for either squad here. And, I mean, that last fight especially, even with a D.Va hounding him, Dex was coming up clutch here. So if you can see more of that from Dex here, then Fallen has this one wrapped up.
Looking for these early pickoffs as Wander finding the best of Shadow Killa. That is absolutely instrumental at opening things up here for this defensive hold that the Fallen are trying to maintain. Having this overclock ready to go, not needing to spend anything until you absolutely must. That is a massive kill. And that is just a regular old railgun, no ult spent there just to make that one come true. Alex is able to clean up Nia Mudkip, but does lose mech in the process, is able to just get back into it, but taking so much damage and caught up in the flux as well. That's going to be another remech onto the tank of Visored. This has to be, well, I'm sorry, that's a boot kill onto Perf, so this might just be an evening of the scales. Benno able to clean up Ethan, Alex the carry as well being taken down, so the Fallen might have just earned themselves a third map in this series here. Will there be a touch, a recontest? There is, but that is all it's going to be as Scraggy and Shadow Killa both just try to make the final edges of this map win out in their favor. Easy Clap does get a kill for his trouble, taking down Wander, but that's it. There is nothing more. That is it for Flashpoint. That is it for New Junk City. Oh, the Fallen go up in the series 3-2, and Megalas, I mean, this is following the trend we've seen. Whoever picks the map wins the map.
Yeah, and so now, you know, even if you're the side of the Visor, do you get the Sigma ban on the next map if you want it? Because you're going to get that first ban here. That means map 7, it's no longer an option for you, right? So already by winning that map, Fallen have put themselves into a massively advantageous position here with 2 potential more maps looming here. I mean, Visored certainly, like, they're so unbelievably close in a lot of these situations, but I think just the chaotic nature that they're sort of dealing with is starting to catch up with them, and they're not responding appropriately because it's so chaotic, right? You can't necessarily game plan and react in time to do anything with what the Fallen is throwing at you. So for the side of Visored, they definitely have to sort of dig deep now and find some sort of answer, because right now their backs are against the wall in a way they've never felt before.
We've got the Fallen up here at series point in our grand finals, but will they be able to clinch it out, or will Visored send us to a map 7? We will find out, folks, on the other side of a quick break, so do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks. We are here at series point of our grand finals for NA Masters Division here at CGL. The Fallen have taken things to a new level here. They're up 3-2 against Visored, who now have a decision where to go for what could potentially be the final map in the series. But of course, Megalats, as we've seen, whoever has picked these maps so far has been the victor. So Visored, I mean, yes, their back's up against the wall, but they still have to feel pretty confident about their selections.
Exactly. Especially considering the fact that we've wrapped back around to where you can pick anything since we've gone through the 5 core game modes here. So Visored has a sort of open field, if you will, and they've decided to go back to somewhere where their bread is buttered here, and it's going to be Blizzard World. Now, this is such an interesting map because I feel like this is one of the hybrid maps where you can play Sigma, especially on first and third point. Second point gets a little bit dicey, high ground control and all that jazz, but this is a map that benefits the Sigma comp here, so Visored definitely has to be looking that up as a hero ban here, as this is more likely than not their last chance in the series to ban it, because if this goes map 7, I definitely expect a protection of the tank, if you will, if it's needed on the side of the Fallen.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last map. This is kind of, you know, your break glass in case of emergency here. You need to ban out the thing that has been the linchpin of the Fallen's composition all the way through this series. And of course, yes, they go for it. I'm so glad. You get nervous sometimes with the chaos of these series here that they're not going to make the obvious choice, but I'm glad they made the obvious one here. So now we get to see what a Sigma-less comp looks like here for the Fallen.
Yeah, we have to see what else Perf has in the hero pool here. Meanwhile, how the Fallen choose to respond here, right? We've had a lot of bans throughout the series already. It's going to be targeted at the Sojourn this time. So we're going to have to see the more reliable hit scan options come alive here for the side of Visored, which, I mean, we saw earlier on in the series. They were happy playing the Ashe and things like that. So I don't necessarily think this is going to impact Visored all too much here. But you know, even though we keep joking about, oh, the Sigma, all this other stuff, it does come down to Visored have to win this map. This is no longer an option, it is a requirement to keep this series alive. And that in and of itself can add such an immense level of pressure.
Yeah, of course, this is the ultimate test of whether or not you can stand against the incredible pressure that is here in the grand finals. You've already dealt with 5 incredibly close, for the most part, maps here. As the further we get into this series, it feels like the more and more chaotic they get. But of course, that chaos has seemed to favor the Fallen more times than not here. It's really whenever the Visored are able to have a game plan, have their own win conditions set for them, they feel most comfortable. So we're getting to see here on Blizzard World exactly how we want to make some adjustments here, whether that's slowing things down without having to worry about a Sigma, or if they want to play up close and personal. Alex on this, still on this D.Va as we've seen so far, is a flexible pick here for sure, but I'm curious to see if we want to have some adjustments to that very fast comp here out the gates. But of course, on their offense, they still have plenty of time to make some adjustments here instead. But Perf, on that D.Va. All right, so with Dex as well on this Ashe, I honestly do enjoy this composition. The Yari Bat backline as well. You're getting a lot of healing out there from both of those, as long as you maintain a decent proximity to them. So it's a very DPS-focused backline, we'll say.
Yeah, and not only that, but I mean, look at the Fallen, right? They're pretty much playing a poke composition, but instead of it just being pure poke with the Sigma, they have the D.Va because they have to substitute. But the D.Va actually benefits really well here. Defense Matrix to potentially stop some of these Widow shots from Ethan from registering and hitting in the way that they do, as well as just being able to follow Alex around the map as well could be a massive factor.
Yeah, first engagement going on around this initial statue in the 4-point there. That jump shot didn't really find too much there from Ethan. So back on this Ashe pick, so we're seeing that same mirror. Then we got to see a good bit of on Gibraltar, already finding out that pylon early here as Easy Clap on this Tracer has proven to be so effective. I'm thinking this Pulse Bomb specifically getting so much value in the earlier maps in this series. So Something to be aware of in your backline at all points here. Both Nyan Mudkip and Wander really do not want to be on the wrong end of Easy Clap's Tracer. So Ethan able to provide some distance pressure here, but Easy Clap already getting found out by Benno on this Reaper. You have to play a bit more carefully. Reaper is not at all too bothered by the slight pestering damage of a Tracer. Oh, nope, there we go. The rest of the team is there as well. That was an excellent lure from Easy Clap, having to bring that Reaper into the kill zone that was provided by Ethan and the rest. So Visored look as though they're ready to make some inroads on the objective, but they're just trying to find some high ground potential. That last pick onto Dex should be just the thing to allow them control, but they still haven't actually made too much point presence just yet.
Yeah, definitely willing to break things down here for the Fallen, right? This defense certainly coming apart in their hands here. And now they just have to get people on the objective for Visored here. Ethan coming alive on the Ashe, like we saw on Gibraltar as well, certainly can be a massive factor. So I'm interested to see how the Fallen continue to choose to play this. Whether it's going to result in Perf trying to get it more aggressive, or potentially some other swap-ups like we see Henno going over to the Torbjorn here, potentially trying to mitigate some of this dive pressure.
Yeah, all right, so that is really just down to Alex to be able to eat up any of that, massive damage coming through in those few moments when, like, Overload, for example, is active. But other than that, not too worried about the turrets, easily pretty much handled by your Tracer, given a certain distance. And, of course, Ethan able to snipe out quite effectively, especially when you find the better of Wander early on here, and Alex able to lock down onto that turret. Yeah, this is exactly what we're kind of expecting to see from this Visored composition on the offense here. So solid work so far, repelling the adjustments being made from the Fallen's defense, and we'll see if we get that Diva D-Mech. Perf does go down to just a sliver, and yeah, finally has to go for the ult just to stay alive, just to get back into mech. Gets the better of Dex falls down, as well as Ethan getting a nice kill here. So this is going to be Visored still surging forward, only spending a pulse bomb there in that fight, still having a full suite of 4 ready to go.
Yeah, it's, like you said, having those key ultimates, like you said, for the side of Visor, are going to keep their momentum rolling here, whereas the Fallen is pretty much going to have to push into a barrage right now, where they're not really going to have the resources to match.
Tidal Blast laid down onto the tank. That Diva benefits so strongly from that ult, and that's going to be the bomb out as well, just for a new mech as Alex the carry cleans up a bunch of deployables, but also Nyan Mudkip there at the very end. So that certainly does count. That is at least one of those, a real living person who was killed. So congratulations on that murder. That's going to be Visored rolling all the way through point B. With 4 minutes 30, I mean, this is a monstrous push out here from the team in red.
A monstrous push indeed, and there's no signs of stopping right now for the side of Visored, right? They're going to be able to sort of keep this momentum rolling, especially off the back of a Kitsune rush and picks like that. Ethan taking over the lobby in the way that we know he can with those absolutely massive picks here, showing how deadly the Ashe can be.
Yeah, Dex over here on this Cassidy, which, good for the close range, but you're still being massively outranged by this Ashe. And Ethan, as you're saying, has proven to be kind of unstoppable when you're not really providing any strong answers or any pressure on this distant, DPS that you're able to get so much work done with here. So, it's your majority field already spent here from Nyan Mudkip, but also using that window. So they're trying to make this one fight a nice, solid holding zone here for the defense. They need to find one fight win to try and slow the momentum, but Alex is just surging forward here, cleaning up Dex, and also losing your Baptiste. I mean, the Fallen are doing just that here, one by one, getting taken down. Perf on this Ramatra, desperate to find something that's going to work, but there's just nothing to do when all the ults come rolling here for Visored, and they still have a good 4.5, or rather 3.5, I would say, in this next fight.
Yeah, and so again, it's just that Visored is currently the train that is not stopping here. The Fallen has to come up with answers, but already missing members thanks to Ethan.
Yeah, winning that one fight turns out to be not nearly enough. When you still have Ethan on that perch, of course, the Bob onto the objective, icing on the cake. This should be the thing to push you over the finish line. 0.01, and that is it. So many ultimates still left to be used here as Visored, with a commanding push, probably the most one-sided round of this game that we've seen so far between these two teams here. That was an incredibly dominant push all the way through Blizzard World, which again, these escort maps, they are quite distant. There's a lot of ground to cover here. That's not even a guarantee. But with 3 minutes functionally in the bank, I can very much see what that Sigma ban is doing wonders.
Yeah, I was really fearful that Fallen were unfortunately victims of being one tricks, but that's just the reality of what is happening right now. So for for their attack now, they have to try to piece something together that can change their fate. And realistically, I don't think it comes down to necessarily countering out Alex while Alex being a thorn. Ethan was going so unbelievably uncontested, right? You see what a hit scan presence can do when there's no longer a shield or a grasp to shoot into here. That absolute hit scan menace that we know Ethan to be being put on full display here. So now the Fallen having to try to find ways to mitigate that. They're currently on a Zarya comp for their attack, but again, there's just not enough to get them over the line here and closing the distance on Ethan with this hit scan.
Yeah, Easy Clap has been such a nuisance as well in the backline. Benno is doing his very best to try and, play Guardian to the backline here, but they've decided to go even harder on this. Dex is going to be playing Tracer as well, and Perf now here on the Zarya. All right, with the Kirilucio backline, of course. So they are just rushing the objective here. This is exactly the combo that we've been seeing so much at all levels of play. This Zarya Reaper looking very strong here. Whenever you need to contest a bit of an objective here, as of course the first point of Hybrid always is. Benno immediately finding out Scraggy jumping on that Wuyong here and immediately appearing right before Ethan just to get headshot in the dome. So a bit of a tit-for-tat trade coming through as Visored's defense just trying to hold strong here. Fallen find themselves on the objective, but still being so caught up and separated from the rest of the team. Perf not able to sustain against the incredible onslaught that Alex is providing here. Visored's defense doing decently to stay alive in this fight. Shadow Killer does fall down as Wander does get a bit of a snipe there onto the opposing Kiriko, but Ethan is still, as you've said, Megalas, uncontested on that high ground. The rest of the team just able to orbit around that incredible ranged precision that Ethan provides.
Yeah, and so again, it's just the way that Visored knows how to play this composition. They know the ins and outs of exactly how to get everything around here, and the Fallen just unfortunately are not equipped for it in the slightest here. So again, I'm just very interested to see how Fallen chooses to respond here. They still have 2 minutes in the bank, time to work with, but they're pushing into a Diva Bomb, even a Pulse now.
Yeah, and losing Benno immediately, I mean, that's just so much of your main frontline pressure being taken away here. Perf wants to bubble up that Reaper whenever possible there. You do not want to run the risk of facing down the onslaught of damage that Ethan, Easy Clap, and Alex are able to provide there, just uncontested without having those defensive tools. So you do lose your Tracer, but of course, be back in the fight quick as anything here for Visored's defense.
Yep, that is the plan at the very least, hopefully, for the side of the Fallen here. When they can't do a whole heck of a lot otherwise, right? And again, they're just sort of throwing darts at a board here, now onto the full dive comp, trying to close the distance here. Meanwhile, Visored has tools out the wazoo to work with here, and pretty much everything on the line. As long as Visored doesn't overinvest, they're sitting pretty for potentially the rest of the map.
Yeah, drip feed these ultimates. Ooh, Ethan falls very dangerously low, gets that restorative stream out there, but crucially does force positioning, so that was an excellent rotation out here from the Fallen. They do lose Benno on the approach, but taking down Ethan is massive. Still has that Bob alive and kicking and cleaning up Dex while he's at it. Certainly the bestest butler in the world of Overwatch, to be sure. But Alex the Carry is there just to force down onto the opposition. They're all fighting in this tiny little room, and that is exactly where you want to find yourself as a Tracer and a Diva. Pincer maneuver, cleaning up your opposition here. Perf gets D-mech'd as Alex shows who the more dominant Diva is in the server right now.
Yeah, and the dominant Diva, I mean, it's been Alex all series long, obviously. But again, it's just showing that the Fallen definitely have put all their eggs into the Sigma composition now with only 30 seconds left here on Blizzard World to try to make magic happen in the face of a Kitsune Rush and all these tools. I mean, at the end of the day, Visored has them on lock.
I mean, Nyan Mudkip can't even stay alive to use that beat. That was their saving grace, their one ult they had ready to go. Those tempo beats might have been just the thing to keep you alive, but there's no one left to receive those beneficial gifts here. The Fallen get taken down more than just a notch here. That felt like an absolute drubbing here. Visored clean up on the defense. There is almost a touch from Nyan Mudkip as the solo beats, a crucial tool in the Lucio's toolkit, comes through to little avail. That will be, once again, the team who chooses the map wins. So, we're all the way here, Megalas. We are going to a map 7. These grand finals have gone the distance here. 6 maps already in the books. And it's honestly been such a wild pendulum between map 1, map 2, map 3, back and forth into control of each other here. But this felt like the first dominant win for Visored.
Yeah, it's a dominant win, but it's for good reason, right? Obviously, the Fallen have really put themselves these last 3 days potentially into this Sigma look here. And, you know, whether it's the strongest thing in the game or whether it's not, it still remains to be told here because Visored has found some levels of success with it across the series. But, I mean, Visored, it's kind of, unfortunately, a little bit out of your hands now because you're going to be playing in home court regardless, right? The Fallen is going to be going to their map pick, as long as it's not a hybrid map, because that's the only thing they can't pick. And they're going to have that Sigma back in control here. They could even go as far as to ban a DP. Like, if they were to ban something like Tracer or something like that, I don't think they've done that yet in the series, that then keeps all of their DPS options safe. They have the Sigma safe because Visored can't ban it twice. And so, you know, it is already an uphill battle. Plus, again, on the map pick that Fallen to pick, each team has won their individual map picks. And, you know, as much Sigma play as we've seen all night long, Rags, the best Sigma map in the game hasn't come up yet. And so, I'm going to make a bold prediction that Circuit Royale could be on the cards.
It's been so long since I've actually seen a Sigma play on Circuit Royale that I would be delighted to see a team that is deciding this is their meta decide to make the standard work for them here. But yeah, I do agree. This very much was the best and possible chance here for Visored to find themselves a victory. So yeah, this is tough. This is about as tough as it gets coming to this last one here. But you did build up some momentum. You built up a head of steam, and you finally feel like you're in control of your fate, even if maybe you aren't fully in control of your fate as we head into our final map of the series here. But they still have that sense of victory to them. I hope they're able to take that and, you know, for themselves a bit of, you know, sustainability into this 7th map of the series here. Because yeah, it's going to be tough fighting into anywhere that, you know, the Fallen want to take you. Whether or not it is Circuit Royale or not does mean that you're still playing into their hands. It does mean that they are the ones in control. That is the benefit of being the higher seed in these longer running series. And no, it turns out we are not, in fact, going to Circuit Royale, folks. We are going to finish this definitively on a control map, and that map's name is Nepal. No drawing this one.
I mean, that's such a random throw, but at the same time there is the Sanctum, which is known as a Sigma point already, so you try to muscle your way through it anyway, and you have that good look at the start here. Also, this can kind of limit the hit scan potential, because I think if Visored has a path to victory, it's going to be on the back of Ethan, right? Put all your cards into that basket and let the hit scan fly. I wouldn't even be ashamed of a mercy pocket for it at this point. I mean, whatever gets you over the finish line at the end of the day here. But Nepal, again, it comes out of nowhere, but like you said, it is a definitive end. It's not like a long escort map. There's 3 rounds that separate these teams from deciding their fates, one as champion and one as the wanderer of what could have been here. So I'm very interested to see what's going to be cooked up, especially with the ban phase.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what it all comes down to at this point here. I mean, of course, the Sigma is back in play, but also the Lucio was banned out by Visored to start things off. So anything that you really want to remove in terms of being the linchpin of this composition that Fallen have been so keen to run this entire series and so strong with it all the way through, there's not really much you can do to remove the most lethal parts. I mean, if you're left to ban a DPS, but as you mentioned, if the Fallen, have their wits about them, they would just ban a DPS as protection and be able to play whatever they want to here. But if you get the chance to, for Visored, I think removing that Reaper might be a good choice here. Obviously, the Venture already been banned, so I believe, I can't remember if that was by the Fallen or Visored, but yeah, so either way, that is still going to be a bit of a difficulty for them uphill, essentially. If you want to go crazy, if you want to be absolutely insane, ban Kiriko, because, right, that's the other enabler of this composition here, and of course you need that. Everyone needs a Kiriko. That's kind of shooting yourself and your opponent at the same time. It's a bit of a shotgun blast of a ban here, but you need to do something. Something crazy has to happen here in order to try and swing this in your favor, because, yeah, I'm a little scared. They shouldn't be scared because they're great. But yeah, that's the Tracer ban. That's exactly what they should have banned. The Fallen, they have clear control of the board right now.
But here's the thing: Fallen having complete control of the board, it should build Visored up that much more, right? Because obviously you're going into this final map. It's been long, right? You're already 2.5 hours deep into this series from where we started. Obviously Ramban coming through, probably not going to be that impactful. I don't think either team was intending for the Ramattra to hit the field anytime soon here. But for Visored, they know they're coming in stacked against them, right? It's not their map pick. They're losing that Tracer that's been helping them all series long. And overall, and they know that they're going to have to play against that Sigma comp again when they've been struggling against the Chaos and things like that here. So ultimately, yes, things are favoring the Fallen right now, but Visored, like you said, comes off that map win. They've got to have some extra energy in the tank here. They won the mid-season. They have to have that 5th gear to try to hit here and now, because this is last map. You have to leave it all on the table.
14 unique bans throughout this series, folks. These teams have entirely separate reads on how this is going to shake out. So, yeah, I'm delighted to see all the way here at the end of the series, this map 7. And I love that we are going to Nepal. I love that we're going to Control, because there is no questioning how it's going to go here. There are 3 rounds. That is it. The one who wins 2 is the one to take this one out. Of course, our first Control map of Lijiang Tower was pretty handily won by the Fallen. Now, Nepal does have a lot of differences, but of course, Control map is still a Control map here. There are plenty of similarities, plenty of synergies you can still rely on here for this final map in the series. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see if Visored want to continue running the comp that has kind of worked for them when it's been allowed to play to its fullest extent, or if they want to, again, try and shift things up here. I feel like Alex is defaulting to this diva, but there's a room where you want to run the Wrecking Ball. I feel like on Nepal, it's a slightly less insane tank pick here. Slightly less, but of course they do enjoy running a Wrecking Ball on the side of Visored, so into that Sigma, it might be just the level of disruption you're hoping for, but in all likelihood, they'll just be sticking with the Diva, and that'll be enough to get them through it here. But I think you do need to meet Chaos with Chaos, is what I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, chaotic is the best way to describe this series. Back and forth, blow for blow, things that you never would have expected. Both these teams are pulling out in the craziest ways possible here. I think the biggest factor that I want to look at is just going to come down to potentially actually which submaps come up first, because we talked about it. Sanctum is the Sigma map of Nepal, right? And where that lands in rotation, like for example, if it's saved for map 3, that could be a stay of execution where, Visored realizes they have to win it in 2. Or if it comes up in the middle, it could be a good bounce back depending on how our first point here of Village ends up going. So with Sanctum looming, again, we've set the series up. We've set the stakes for y'all. Visored has their back against the wall. These teams are tied after 2 hours, but somebody is going to walk away from this Nepal map a champion.
That they will already. Visored are hovering the composition we've kind of been expecting from them here so far. Easy Clap, of course, not able to play that Tracer, so the Echo, which was banned out on our previous control map of Lijiang Tower. Ethan swapping between Sojourn or Ashe. I think Sojourn probably a bit more flexible here, but Ashe has incredible pick potential in Ethan's hands, especially here. The Fallen, yeah, it's exactly what it was on Lijiang Tower, on Gardens. It is, well, never mind, not exactly. Just the Sim teleport to get out of the spawn doors. Benno on this venture instead, and Dex once again piloting this Bastion here, and they are holding down on the high ground position just around the objective, waiting for that point to unlock. Visored running it through mid here, so we do have Easy Clap on the flank, trying to find an early pick off. Oof, false standards low. Wonder gets picked off there. Shadow Killer able to confirm that one with the Knights Kunai to the dome. So Visored finally found themselves an inroad here. Dex falling down, and Scraggy does get traded off on the other side of things, but with Perf falling, that is going to be the end of any hopes for the initial cap here from the Fallen. And Visored, on the back of an excellent early pick here, cleaning up Benno at the end. I mean, that's icing on the cake.
That reminds me so much of how we started New Junk City, right? Where it was almost sort of like Visored set themselves as sharks circling the point here. You had everybody set up on their angles, and then the go button was pressed here when Fallen. You know, they can't react to every single angle. This comp is kind of one-dimensional unless Benno can be in the right place at the right time here. So now just trying to muscle their way into the point.
Oh, Alex directly behind the squad as they roll into the objective, cleaning up Dex, and everyone else just falls like dominoes directly afterwards. Incredible work here from Visored, just spying these win conditions and positioning completely out-competing their opposition here, and just in terms of where they're placing themselves on these choke points. And Fallen, honestly, gobsmacked at this point.
Yeah, Fallen is certainly struggling for answers. I mean, Alex, again, just getting away with murder on this D.Va. You're seeing so many times the D.Va just fly in, micro missiles plus just regular shooting from the fusion cannons, deleting somebody from the game.
I like this from Benno, the Sim swap, just to get them in at a quicker tempo here, but losing Dex immediately, as well as Perf. That is going to be this fight well and truly taken out of their hands. Visored are just holding so strongly here. They did have to vacate the point for a few seconds here, as these turrets are just providing enough harassment, but that is only going to be a crisp 13% being gained here for the Fallen. Visored, I mean, all they had to spend there was the D.Va Bomb, and that is it. They still have plenty more to work with.
Plenty more in the bank here, and Visored seems to have this on lock here. They're killing these symmetric teleporters in the best way possible, as actually Alex was looking the wrong way, and now they have no OC to deal with.
Oh, Easy Clap cleans up two. Make that a third one. That focusing beam, a 2-for-1 deal, and nearly a team kill just for your Echo, but Alex had to join in the festivities there. Yeah, that is a rush into an overclock, but the real action was happening on the objective, where Easy Clap just utterly obliterates those softened up targets from Ethan. So, and this is final touches here from the Fallen.
Yeah, they have to get somebody over to the objective. Sure, you have a gravitic flux to work with, but just looking for somebody. There's nobody to put it on.
Perf is just so desperate to find a target, drifting lazily, scared towards the objective, but not able to actually find it. We are still missing two bodies on either side here, and that sound barrier from Neon Mudkip, as well as the rush. They are fully committed to keeping this one alive here. Dex cleans up ETH at the back end of this, so the Fallen are not out of this one just yet.
I was gonna say, this is a very risky TP from Dex. You have to sort of back up in this situation. So Fallen able to get it done, but they look at this. They invest everything. They don't have an ult to their name. Meanwhile, you're coming into this next fight for Visored. You have a sound barrier, a D.Va bomb, a duplicate. Like, I mean, this everything's pointing to Visored just flying back in aggressively and taking this point.
Yeah, all you need to do is just lock down a single target here. Dex having to spend that Wraith Walk as well, so that is a massive... I mean, Benno goes right up into the sky, and Easy Clap says, I'm sorry, this is my turf, dirt friend. That takes directly down in that engagement there. Easy Clap goes ahead with the copy onto the Sigma, and that is just all they wrote, my friends. Visored clean up Village in pretty commanding fashion here. The Fallen, honestly... seems like they've finally, at long last, been found out here.
Yeah, it seems like the train is running out of steam when it needs to power up the most. It needs to go that little bit faster here. And unfortunately for the Fallen, we talked about it, Sanctum could be their saving grace, but they have to find their way through the entirety of Sanctuary here, or Shrine rather. And so it's just going to be an uphill battle, to say the least here. Again, Alex the carry getting away with murder on this diva, just going any and everywhere that they please. No backline member is safe here. And it's as well as Alex is going in alone. It's not a lot of times where you're seeing, oh, everybody's just thinking about the same target to delete him. No, it's just Alex, somehow sneaking around in a 6-ton mech, being a menace.
Yeah, so already first,
Matching divas.
placement being gained here around the objective, as yet here we are all the way up top here on the mountain. But yeah, we now have Perf swapping over to this diva. They are determined to mirror this, and this is of course, kind of what we saw on Blizzard World here in the mirror. Alex very much gets the greater value, already doing so, cleaning up Wander just as this fight really kicks off here, and that is the beam coming through. Those stickies doing so much work. Nine Mudkip just staying alive by the skin of their teeth there, but it is going to be a cleanup once again. This diva so devastating, but Alex is able to get the kills despite being in the baby diva form here. That's a couple of boops from your tank. And Visored just more than happy to clean this one up. Benno does get the kill onto Scraggy. Oh, I'm sorry, Alex does not get back to the objective there. That was a bit of a premature celebration there. It looks as though the Fallen might be getting control of this over a bit of an overextension from Visored.
Yeah, being able to punish that diva as well as Benno just getting picked on this. Again, the chaotic venture, being in the backline, being a menace, but being able to continue it now with Neon Mudkip getting in the kill feed.
Yeah, here we go, as Easy Clap is able to clean up Benno as you're just trying to find those picks. And we've seen, of course, Benno on this venture going for that high-flying pick of Easy Clap here on this Echo, but just so difficult to match the Skybox potential. You really have to consider the rest of your team really paying heavy attention towards that flying android that she is. So has this copy ready to go, but Wander is able to already clean up Ethan there, getting taken down as well as Easy Clap. So Wander already finishing off the DPS line of Visored, but crucially supports from Visored and Tank are still in this engagement here. Perf is out of mech, so if you can finish off this diva, as we're able to do, Visored finally find themselves in control once again. I mean, this is the Fallen playing with their backs against the wall. If they lose this point here, it is all done and dusted. Visored know they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and Visored right now, they have such great momentum behind them. And again, it's the way that they're playing. Easy Clap now kind of adapting Alex's style now that Alex is sort of being pressured out and having to peel a little bit more. Very much just being quiet on the Echo, coming in and just nuking people like that. Just a bunch of stickies, a focusing beam. They're gone from the fight before they even knew they were in it. It's just time and time again, these people are just getting in so sneakily in a situation where they shouldn't be sneaky.
Now, Easy Clap all the way up in the skybox, having to look directly up. Perf just trying to provide some pressure onto this Echo. Benno gets the best, a bit of revenge there onto Easy Clap, so that is perhaps a position you did not want to find yourself in, certainly. Does have this duplicate ready to go, of course, gets back into these engagements pretty quickly there, as the spawn doors are no trouble at all for an Echo to work with. But Benno is able to get tons of value so far on this venture here, and getting a, drop-off kill there onto Alex as well. All right, we're fighting for this one tooth and nail. We are not done just yet. Only 68% gain for Visored, but plenty of ults to come back in. But so do the Fallen for this next fight.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the only ult that's missing is going to be Wander's Kitsune Rush, which was invested in the fight previous. Otherwise, both these teams are going to be chucking everything into this next engagement here. And depending on how long Fallen can stall it out or potentially win the fight, this could determine the sub round here and now.
Overclock out from both of these Sojourns. Dex has the high ground here, but you have this rotation coming out from Ethan as the copy from Easy Clap lasts only a brief moment, as well as the true Echo getting taken down by Benno there on that tectonic shock rolling from the venture. Alex going for that re-mech. We'll see if the Diva's able to live. Nope, that is Benno coming up at the exact wrong moment. Oh, so many Diva Bomb kills in this game. Does my heart good. Dex, however, is still able to clean up that opposite. Ethan falls, but Alex and Shadowkiller combining for the necessary finishes, this pickoffs in this fight here. It looks as though Visored will be able to clean up, but again, Perf does not leave these fights except in a body bag. You have to finish off this Diva, this mech, all in one go here. Losing Naya Mudkip as well. That should be just enough, but 99% gained. Only one more fight needed for the Fallen.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, Visored is also going to be in that final fight territory by the time Visored is going to be able to get back in. Both these teams are going to absolutely throw everything into this. No ultimates to speak of for either team. They're going to be trying to, again, look for these quick executions. One pick could determine everything here and now.
Yeah, looking for a pick here on the flank. Ethan on this Sojourn, but Alex is the first one to find it. Dex getting blasted down as the fight just kicks off. No ult. This is pure neutral. This is true, honest Overwatch here, if ever I've seen it. A DMEC onto Perf. No Sigma in sight. Nothing to be done whatsoever as the Fallen one by one get taken down. Ethan here on the Sojourn combining for a 3K, falls at the end, but it turns out the work was enough. Visored will clean up here on Nepal, taking the 4th necessary map to win things out here. They are your Masters Division NA champions. It is Visored.
Visored, it looked scary. It looked sketchy at points, having to go from mid-season champions to a lower bracket run, but at the end of the day, they get the job done. They find the pieces that they need to get this done. They get it over with on Nepal. They finally are the first person all series long to take an opponent's map pick and win on it here. And what better time, what better place to win for the side of Visored here than to finally get it on this final sub point.
Yeah, honestly, incredible momentum, incredible tempo decisions coming out there on Village especially. I mean, that point could have easily been the thing that drags you back down to playing that Sigma composition, playing into that composition rather for Visored. But no, they decided to change up their game plan entirely and play, you know, to the strengths of that D.Va comp. If you can just find the positioning, catching that Sigma and his hangers-on off guard, yeah, as we saw, there's not a whole lot you can do. You can't defend from all angles there, so that was incredible target selection, incredible tempo decisions there coming through from Visored. A really good read of the opposition, forcing for the first time the Fallen to play your game, running into that D.Va composition where Perf just, unfortunately, did not have the same chops that Alex was so practiced and ready on. An incredibly well-deserved victory coming here at the very end. Such a back-and-forth series, but yeah, incredible win here for Visored. But folks, we have some interviews coming up in just a few moments here. Take a quick break just to get those set up, but do not go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Welcome back, folks. We have an interview now with our second place team here for NA Master Division. We are joined here on the mic by Coach Tool from the Fallen. So thank you so much for joining us, Coach. How you feeling after that incredibly long, drawn-out series?
I mean, so like I could say the cliche thing and say like, you know, we're a little bit like down, but like to be honest, no, I don't really feel that down just because it's like we really fought and it was a good series, but just not that. Like I don't really think anybody saw us like doing as well as we did coming into playoffs, and I felt like this team's fought through a lot of adversity this season as a whole, and so like we did really well with what we had, and I can't be any happier for my team. So.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, we literally highlighted it heading into the match here. You know, you guys were the underdogs and you came out ahead every single time until today here. And every series incredibly close, you know, being able to play up to your opponents after, you know, a pretty average regular season is a feat in and of itself here. But I think the biggest thing, the talk of the town here, is the Sigma composition here. And maybe since you're the coach, you have some insight here. Was this purely just because of the patch? Like you guys were like, oh, this is OP, we need to learn it here and now, or was this just something Coach already wanted to play that just got benefited?
I mean, if I'm gonna be honest with you, we literally probably like have like literally learned it since the patch. Like it's about like a week old comp at this point now, not even like it's legitimately partially because of the patch notes, and then also just like it's a lot of heroes that a lot of our people are really good at too. Plus we also knew it'd be really good against Visored because, you know, they like to play a lot of Diva, and that's kind of been really not a secret. So we knew it'd do really well there. Sadly, we just didn't play it that great on map 7, but yeah, it's kind of just been something new, and, you know, to be able to learn a comp like that quickly and get that much value from it pretty consistently, I'm pretty proud of, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of value gain for sure. I mean, took it all the way down to the wire. One last question before we let you go. What are you looking forward to, at least for next season maybe, or just for next things coming up for your team?
Not really 100% sure yet. We'll kind of play it by ear and see what happens.
All right. Well, anyone you want to drop a thanks to or shout out before we let you go?
I always do this in my interview. Shout out to my wifey and my friends Pancakes, and then obviously just huge shout out to my team in general. Like really, like honestly, I'm gonna be brutally honest, before playoffs started I thought we were gonna get like immediately dropped down to losers by Visored, and you know that didn't happen. So these guys have played about every map 5 or map 7 that you physically could, so to do that consistently and win as many of them as we did, I mean, it is what it is. So.
All right. Well, once again, congratulations on the silver medal. Second place is nothing to sneeze at.
One last thing, I do want to shout out Visored themselves. Like, I know we've had some beef, and you know it's whatever. Like, regardless of the beef, like it wasn't anything ever that crazy. Like those guys played really good today too, and I just want to give them a shout as well. So.
Well, we appreciate the sportsmanship there. Fantastic. All right, Coach Tool, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again next time it comes around.
Of course, of course.
All right, folks, that was our exit interview here, but of course, we still have to hear from the victors, so I believe we're going to throw to another quick break just to get things set up. We'll be right back in just a moment. Hey folks, welcome back. We are here with our victors interview. We've got a couple members of the winning team here. That is Visored, of course. In our 7-map banger, we've got Shadowkill and Alex here joining us. Welcome to you both. How are you feeling after that map 7 there?
You go, Shadow.
We're like really excited and like really, really pumped that we won. We wanted to win a lot, because obviously we got knocked out round 1 and then we got rule booked during the playoffs, during regular season. But like, yeah, we just, it was just such a good time.
We wanted to win so bad, and we were, even though I think we were confident, even though we were down 3-2, like when we were 3-2, we were still fairly confident in ourselves because we knew the map pool and we knew what all the bans, and we just felt confident, and like we're just extremely happy. And holy, I am drained from map 7. Holy cow.
Hey, listen, that's completely fair to be drained from that map here. Obviously it's the talk of the town. We have to ask what y'all's reception to it was. Very quick turnaround on a brand new patch where, Sigma kind of came out of nowhere and potentially was something that caught you guys off guard, as it seemed as though the side of the Fallen decided to put all their eggs into that basket. How did it feel playing against it, and just sort of what was your prep time looking like against a composition like that?
We actually we were thinking about playing SIG ourselves. We didn't actually know what we were going to play going into today. There was a chance we played SIG, as my favorite hero SIG, and I'm pretty, like, I play a lot of SIG. But we felt that their comp, they would just be better at that comp, as we hadn't scrimmed much. And then we haven't scrimmed SIG, like, ever. So we just weren't confident. I wasn't really confident on our team playing the SIG, and then we adjusted well to recognizing, wait, they're not taking any angles. Let's just take as many angles as we can and just create a great kill box, which is what we did, and it started working.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it certainly paid dividends. We saw in those moments we were able to really take the tempo to them, that it really showed how strong you could be into that composition. But one final question for you, just kind of a general one. Anyone you want to, what are you guys looking forward to, at least for your team, coming into the next season?
Alex, you can answer this one.
I mean, as a team, we are mostly staying together. We have one person leaving us at the end of this season, so we'll miss him. But I think we're going to be playing a lot of scrims, just playing a lot of tournaments, just playing together, building our chemistry a bit more, and just enjoying playing with each other. We should look to play some more tournaments, yeah.
Nice. All right. Anyone you want to drop a thanks to or shout out before we let you go?
I just want to thank, all my teammates. Ethan, hard carries when he needs to. Alex, always the GOAT. Scraggy is consistent as always. And then it doesn't look like he does much, but like he does, like when he's needed, he pops off. So.
I'd like to shout out my team as well. I'd like to shout out Mom. I'd like to shout out Dad. I'd shout out my brother. Shout out my friends who are watching. Shout out T, Dylan. Shout out CGL for a great season. And I feel like I got robbed of MVP.
All right, well, there's always next season, but thank you both so much for joining us. And once again, congratulations on being the division champions.
Thank you.
Well, Megalaths, that's it. We've done it. That is our Masters division well and truly done here for NA. An incredible series, incredibly long series. We are here 2.5 hours deep into this one here, a 7-map banger. And honestly, all according to plan here. An incredibly intensive series, back and forth all the way through. But honestly, glad it went the distance. Glad we finally got to see the return of the confidence that Visored clearly had coming out the gate.
Yeah, Visored, again, they started this playoff run, that number one seed. Like they said, they won the midseason. They had that chip on their shoulder, sent down to lower bracket unexpectedly here, and had to fight their way back tooth and nail, including a 7-map series here. But like they said, they never lost confidence in themselves. They had complete faith the entire time that they could pull through and get the job done. And it seems like they were correct on the day here. So obviously, props has to go to Visor. They came, they saw, they conquered.
Yeah, very much well deserved here, and glad they got to actually get returns on their, well fought series, well fought season rather, all the way through. So folks, that's going to do it for us here on CGL tonight. Thank you so much for joining us from all of us here, Casting and Prod. Reminder, of course, that CGL 17 will be coming at some point in the future. So we'll let you know details at a later date, but that'll do it for us here on the broadcast tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you in the next one.